We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover every single thing in college football because we love everything in college football. If you need that little bit of extra content to get you through the off season, subscribe to our channel, smash that like button, share the video with your family and friends. Welcome in. Don't be afraid. The water's warm. Coming into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. I'm going to have to lead off tonight with an apology. Once again, your host did a bait and switch. Earlier today, we advertised our live show. In fact, we advertised it on Tuesday. That tonight was going to be about the ACC. We were going to do our way too early ACC predictions, just like we did with the Pac-12, where we picked Washington Huskies, just like we did in the Big 12, where we picked the Texas Longhorns to win the conference championship, just like we did in the SEC, where we took the two-time defending reigning undisputed national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs, to once again win the SEC championship. Tonight, we were going to do the ACC. We're scratching that. We're not going to do it. We're really not going to talk about the ACC unequal revenue plans that they might have. We did an episode earlier today. You can catch that on our YouTube channel. Now, if you want to talk about it, you go right ahead. You put in the comments section. You give us a call later on. The phone lines are not open. We're going to open them up after we go through the monologue, after we go through get caught up on the comments. Then we're going to open the phone lines. The phone line number, once again, 763-260-1333. But after the monologue, you guys direct the show like always. So if you want to talk about the ACC, Jim Phillips those presidents talking about the Clemson athletic director talking about this unequal revenue plan that they might somehow accomplish. You go right ahead. We'll talk about it. But for my monologue, we are talking about the Pac-12. Once again, now, you see the title, the show, the little cartoon of me. It says minus 110. These are now the odds, minus 110. Minus 110 means here at Peek Around the Corner, we see it as a slight favorite. Now a slight favorite that the Pac-12 will hold on to their 10 current schools. No, we don't think the Pac-12 is going extinct. I don't even think John Wilner believes that. I don't think that 33% number he put up is about total extinction. I think what he means is the current roster. Do they lose somebody? We still have the favorite as the Pac-12 will not lose any more schools. And the number one reason why, we've been saying it for months here at Peek Around the Corner, because Pac-12 universities like being with Pac-12 universities. They love being Pac-12 universities. There's a tight relationship among those schools. They are big, large research universities. They are the engine, the economic engine of the West Coast and basically this country, along with other universities across the country. But what I'm saying is a few $1 million here or there difference is not going to move any Pac-12 school to the Big 12 conference. And that is not a shot toward the Big 12 fans, the universities, and everyone who goes in the chat. It's not a shot. It's just reality. But man, things are dicey. That's also the reality. Because as we've been talking about here at Peek Around the Corner, I don't really care about the number, about the millions. The number, there's been reports out there that the Pac-12 schools going to make $33 million, $35 million, $37 million, $31.6 million, just like the Big 12 schools. No, Pac-12 schools are going to make $25 million for 7 years. I don't even care about it. I don't even talk about it. I know that sounds crazy because I am crazy, as you all know. But that's not really the crux of the situation. It's all about the untraditional Pac-12 media deal that they're about, those presidents and those athletic directors about to sign their names to. It's that most of that content going in a streaming digital service, that is some scary stuff. And I disagree with Pac-12 fans and some who say, nah, it's going to be okay. It's on the come. We're all going into the streaming world, but we're not there yet. And the Pac-12 having some of their tier 1 football content or all of it, we don't know yet, behind the Pacific Sports app on Amazon Prime, that is scary. That is so very scary. And I think we're going to go diving right into the Athletic article that came out this afternoon. We're going to go into it. And I'm going to give you, well, let's get into it. We'll go into it, be part of my monologue. We're going to get to your comments as soon as I possibly can. We're going to speed this up. Then we're going to get to your phone calls. Thank you, Monavision, for the super chat. I appreciate it. I'm not going to say the words yet. There's a drinking game that happens in our community here at Peek Around the Corner in the chat room. When I say a certain phrase, everybody takes a drink. So I hope you all brought your favorite beverage. You might want to double up on it because we're going to say it a lot. In fact, I think it's imprinted into this Athletic article. We're going to go through some of it. We're not going to go through all of it. It's behind a paywall. But I have seen screenshots taken of this article all over Twitter. So we're not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to get to the most important points of the article. Give me one moment here. But first, I have to say thank you to our sponsor for tonight's live show. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. The Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference: clean, hot air roasted. Coffee produces a smoother, richer, healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly in hot air from craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans. So there's a link in the description box below the video. If you want to give it a look, give it a try, hit the link, order your coffee beans. If you want to support our channel, put down PATC in the comments section while you're ordering the coffee. This is my wife's favorite coffee, and she's had them all. As you know, the little general, Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, she loves it. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. Now, let's get back. Thank you again, Monavision. I will say the words here very shortly. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Let's get to this article. This was dropped this afternoon. What we're hearing on Pac-12 expansion, SMU, the Big 12, and more. Written by Stuart Mandel, Nicole Auerbach, Max Olson, Chris Vanini. Again, we are not going to go through the whole article. You're going to have to go to the Athletic and read the whole thing. Realignment is back in the news, thanks to the continued discussions within the Big 12 about early exits for Oklahoma and Texas, and Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff's visit to SMU on Wednesday. Here is the latest from the Athletics reporters. Pac-12 media rights. Last July, shortly after USC and UCLA's defections, the Pac-12 opened negotiations for its next media rights contract, which would take effect with the 2024 football season. 7 months later, there's still no deal, and people are getting antsy, with good reason. 3 people with the knowledge of discussions said Commissioner George Kliavkoff is struggling to find partners willing to pay close to what the league is seeking. Now remember the number, 3 people. We're going to get back to that. 3 people. Now I don't know who they are, but I'm going to give you my speculation based on the intel that we provided to you on January 31st in a live show. Okay? Kliavkoff is struggling to find partners willing to pay close to what the league is seeking. 2 of those sources said Kliavkoff overpromised his members on how many bidders they would be and what dollar amount they could command. A target north of $40 million per school, according to one league athletic director. Again, I want you all to keep that in mind, because we're going to circle back to that. Okay? Because this is part of the cloak and dagger. The cloak and dagger. The cloak and dagger. For those who are new to the show, you're going to find out exactly what that means in the chat room. Today, it's uncertain whether the Pac-12 will even be able to exceed the $31.6 million average the Big 12 reportedly landed in a 6-year extension with ESPN and Fox it reached last fall. Quote, "We don't have a deal because it hasn't been good," unquote, said the AD. Again, the AD. We're going to go back to that. We're going to get through this article. And before we get to your comments, we're going to drill into that part of the article. Big time. ESPN remains interested in the Pac-12, particularly in the league's 10:30 p.m. Eastern time games, But the New York Post sports media writer Andrew Marchand reported last fall that the Pac-12 and ESPN were hundreds of millions apart, which may explain why the Pac-12 is looking at possibly putting the majority of its games on a streaming platform. Sports Business Journal John Oran predicted in December the league will sell almost its entire media package to Amazon for a price that's slightly higher than what the Big 12 gets from ESPN and Fox. That's basically old news. We all know this if you've been following here at Peek Around the Corner. Let's get to the next part of the article, which brings us back to expansion. Adding schools like San Diego State and SMU would not add significant value in the traditional TV deal, but a streaming service like Amazon or ESPN Plus could be interested in volume. Inviting 2 more schools would add on an extra 15 or so football games a year, which would raise the overall dollar amount saved from $207 million a year to $300 million a year. The two sources believe the new schools would initially receive less than a full share, which should not bother. We've been saying this at Peek Around the Corner. J.D. Wicker, take the deal, take the discount. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Get into a Power 5 conference, which would help the existing schools slice of the pie. While the sources still believe the media deal will be completed before any expansion becomes official, they also understand there could be pressure from media partners to swap the order of events so they know exactly what the inventory will be. In other words, it looks like there's pressure from media companies to reverse the order, expand first, and then we'll get the media deal done. SMU Pac-12's case is centered on its location in Dallas, which would bring the Pac-12 into Texas and the Central Time Zone, which the Pac-12, I believe, desperately needs to get done, along with solid academics, more than solid academics, very elite academics. It's a top 75 national university per U.S. News and World Report and is working to become an R1 research school, which is significant for a small school like SMU, and a lot of money. A $2 billion endowment and many active big money donors. It's a private school with an enrollment of more than 12,000 and is non-sectarian, having split from the United Methodist Church in 2019. The Pac-12 has avoided schools with religious ties in the past. That is no longer an issue. The school, SMU, has had conversations with the Pac-12, Big 12, ACC dating back to at least last summer. A school official told The Athletic last year, Turner had his call scheduled with the University of Washington's president August 1st last year, according to an email obtained by The Athletic and a public records request. Kliakoff's visit on Wednesday was a big step toward a possible transformative moment for a school slowly working its way back to a major conference. Since the Southwest Conference dissolved in 1996, where the Big 12 stands, the Big 12 is now well positioned to benefit from any Pac-12 chaos. But first, it needs to finalize its divorce from Oklahoma and Texas. Conversations continue about an early exit from the two departing schools, which are contractually bound to the Big 12 the 2024-2025 academic year. Talks that would allow the Sooners and Longhorns to move on to the SEC ahead of the 2024 football season. It hit a snag last week, but they are not dead. 2 people acknowledged of the negotiation set. The Big 12 has been eyeing the 4 remaining Pac-12 South schools: Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, since last summer, but certainly also views Oregon and Washington as prize targets. That's the second point that we're going to circle back. And let me tell you, we're going to be here for a long time tonight, so please be patient. We're going to get to your comments. I see there's been some donations. I'm going to thank you profusely. But let's just, and we're going to get to your phone calls. We're going to be here all night if it takes. So please be patient. Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren's departure makes it tough for those two schools to assess whether they fit into the conference future plans. The longer the Pac-12's hunt for an acceptable TV deal drags on and stirs doubts about the conference's financial future, the easier it becomes for Yormark to make his pitch to those schools. That's not his only option. The Big 12 continues to talk with Gonzaga. The one high-ranking source at the school confirmed. They described the Big 12's approach as much forward-thinking than the Pac-12. Again, we're back to Gonzaga. Again, at Peek Around the Corner, we said a couple months ago, we believe Gonzaga ends up with the Big 12, but Gonzaga wants to see what that Pac-12 media deal is. Here's just more confirmation of it. Yormark's background is in basketball, and he sees serious potential in the idea of making the best men's basketball conference even stronger. The challenge for Gonzaga is convincing either conference to invite it as more than just a basketball-only member. There's still reluctance to make a move unless it's for all sports. When the Big 12 went through its last round of expansion in 2021, SMU was considered but wasn't viewed as a serious contender. The concern was and has been that SMU wouldn't add value for the Big 12, but would the Pac-12 inviting SMU entering the Dallas-Fort Worth market be detrimental for the Big 12? How will Yormark and his board assess the threat? I will highlight. We'll go back tonight. We'll go through some of that article. There's the whole article. We're not going to go through it all here. Those are the important parts. Let me circle back to something. He's had three the Athletic and those writers, those tremendous college sport writers, mentioned three sources and an AD, and that one AD says something to the effect of, we don't have a deal yet because it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good. They haven't received anything worthwhile. Okay. Somebody is talking to the Athletic at this time, or maybe this was, okay, we don't know when they spoke to the Athletic. Maybe yesterday, maybe the day before, but relatively recent, right? Somebody spoke, more than one person spoke to the Athletic. Somebody put a negative tone into the current Pac-12 media negotiations. One of those, at least one of those is a current athletic director. Now, back in January 31st, a day after the meetings, after the Pac-12 meetings that were held on a Monday, on a Tuesday, we got a nugget of information from BTM and his associates, and we put it out there. It was the title of our live show on January 31st. When we put it out there, we said it may mean nothing, or it may mean everything. We don't know, but we're putting it out there just in case. Just in case there's other information that comes out. You can do whatever you want with our intel, but you can use it as a dot, as a data point, as something you may be able to connect to something else. That's what we do. We do a lot of things here at Peek Around the Corner. For those new to the channel, we do a lot of crazy things. We even sing on this channel, for goodness sake. One of the things we do, though, is we try to connect the dots. The dot on January 31st was that Arizona State, a representative of Arizona State, voiced their displeasure at that Pac-12 meeting. We put it out there Tuesday, 9 days ago. Now, it might not mean anything, and other people scoffed at it. But let's review what's happened since then. We talk about here at Peek Around the Corner that silence can be deafening, correct? We talked about how when we broke the news on March 31st that USC talked to the Big Ten, during those tweets, during all that information we put out, we were telling people that USC's president, athletic director, hadn't said anything, had no rah-rah moments of the Pac-12 where they were speaking like, we're going to do this. This is positive for the Pac-12. This is great. It was silence. Same thing happened. Take June 30th and go back 8-10 months. You won't see the athletic director, the president of USC, really bringing up Pac-12's future reform, talking about reform in a positive manner. When Texas and Oklahoma, when they both called the SEC to talk about, when they called Greg Sankey and they said, look, we want to join you, SEC. Go back 6 or 8 months prior to that. Oklahoma and Texas were silent about anything and everything in regards to the Big 12 and what they were forming, what they were trying to do, how they were trying to reform themselves. Since that January 30th, 31st live show here at Peek Around the Corner, we've been keeping our eyes open, ears open. What have we heard from the Four Corners schools? We've heard the Arizona athletic director in an interview. It was a pretty good rah-rah interview. It was pretty positive about the Pac-12. I think all of us would admit it. We know that the Utah athletic director has been rah-rah about the Pac-12. We know that Rick George, the Colorado athletic director, had a podcast with Wilner and Casano. We had a show on it. For me, it was quite odd, but it was an odd interview, in my opinion. But he was rah-rah. Who haven't we heard from a four-corner school? Now, if a week or two, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before all of that, if you would have said, Greg, rank the 10 current Pac-12 schools in order of what is the most pro-Pac-12 school, like the one that wants to get a deal done, I don't care what it even looks like, I would have ranked Arizona State as number 3. That's the most pro-Pac-12 school, behind Oregon State and Washington State. They have been. They were during the Larry Scott years, for crying out loud. They have been currently. But yet, that's why this nugget of information that we received was like we all took a step back and go, really? It was Arizona State that voiced their displeasure in the process of the Pac-12 media deal? So keep that in mind. One more thing, and then we'll get to your comments. I'll catch up to them as fast as I can. If you want to make sure I get to your comments, you can hit the $ donate, help to keep the lights on. I'll get to your comments as soon as possible. One more thing. On today's episode, I basically said George Kliavkoff at an SMU basketball game, out in the open, in public, watching this game from the booth there. The deal has to almost be done. They must be at the 1 yard line. They're about to push it in for a touchdown. Because if it wasn't, why would he be so open at an SMU game? No one has seen that before. So I just figured this thing was done, almost done. And now, if you read The Athletic, no, it's not almost done. George Kliavkoff is looking to thread the needle, looking to be able to take care of everybody's needs. Washington and Oregon's, from the Four Corners schools, from the media partners, and this worry about this almost putting all your content on this digital streaming platform. It's a risk, but it may be the risk they have to take. I'm going to get to your comments right now. That was a longer monologue that I tended to, but I thought it was important. That's why we're doing the live show tonight. Pac-12's on the razor's edge once again. First of all, let me thank Battlestrap. I appreciate you coming into the chat. Thank you for your donation. I appreciate it so very much. Ryan Martin, appreciate you, sir. Thank you for the donation. Sorry I'm late. Ryan Martin, again, thank you for the donation to the show. News on the Oklahoma-Texas buyout. Supposedly a deal has been reached between Fox, ESPN, and the Big 12. An announcement could be forthcoming as early as tomorrow. Thank you, Ryan. If you got a link to that report, send it to me on my Twitter account at Flag Empire. I would appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Daniel, again, thank you for that incredibly generous super chat donation to our show. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your friendship. You've been with me from the start. You've seen things that other people haven't seen, and you're going to see things in the future. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your generosity. Okay, now let's get to your comments. I'm going to catch up on these comments, but then I expect phone calls. I'll let you know when the phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Let's get going. Rebecca, boom. College football is getting spicy. Monavision, no future Big Ten expansion without Notre Dame. Ted, fighting Illini. He expects some heated debate tonight. It could be. Jay Pure Mutter, get your drinks ready. Tater Tots. We'll be busy tonight, so I won't be able to join the discussion. But how much longer can we trust George? Lied, misled, or was outright wrong so many times. Can't think any ADs are happy with that. Yeah, again, we talked about it. George Kliavkoff went over his skis, over the tip of his skis when he said that UCLA would make less money if they joined the Big Ten. He went over the tip of his skis when he said Deion Sanders, well, of course we were waiting to make a deal until he gets signed with Colorado. He's making these comments that, they don't really do any damage to anybody except for like his own credibility. And now, north of $40 million, that's where some athletic directors were told, misled to believe that the new media contract would be north of $40 million per school per year. I think at the very least, George Kliavkoff is having communication problems, just like Kevin Warren did with the Big Ten presidents during his tenure. At the very least. Wow, dude. Craig, consider putting a cloak and dagger on yourself in your PATC introduction picture. Monavision, the cooler, has claimed another victim against the spread. Ryan Thomas, Greg, I am locked and loaded. Ryan Thomas is going to be giving us a call tonight. Jim Brokaw, PAC needs a leader if they're going to survive intact. Again, and I talked about this on Twitter here just this evening. For me, this is that minus 110. PAC being the slight favorite to be able to keep their composition right now. It's not about, for me, and for everyone we've talked to, this is not about the potential of the Pac-12 being poached to death. This is about are the Pac-12, are they getting into a situation where they're going to damage the front porch of the universities, the athletic departments, where they get into a deal where it just isn't ready yet. The consumers are not ready to go to the Amazon, to a streaming app, to look at all of Pac-12 content. It's a dangerous proposition. It might be the only path they have, but it's scary. So when The Athletic puts out an article on February 9th in the afternoon, a day after George Kliavkoff is seen at an SMU basketball game, and The Athletic say that I'll look for it again, that Brett Yormark, now his prime targets are Oregon and Washington. Do you think The Athletic would even put that out there if there hasn't been any communication between the Ducks, Huskies, and Yormark? Cloak and Dagger Mania is running wild. Cloak and Dagger. Absolutely. Wild dude. Don't think folks realize that playing games on Amazon is a huge upside from playing on the no good, terrible Pac-12 network. Way more distribution on Amazon. Pair Amazon with ESPN and CBS will be okay. Sure, but what if most or all of the top Pac-12 football games are played on Amazon? Because right now, that's your Pac-12 games are on ESPN, are on Fox Sports. And Amazon, if Amazon has the top Pac-12 football games on a Saturday, where Amazon is not the standalone place to watch your sport live content like it is in NFL Thursday Night Football, when Amazon is competing against ESPN, CBS, NBC, Fox, with all that content out there, are people going to be switching to Amazon streaming app underneath a sports application to watch Oregon versus Utah? I think it's such when you read the Athletic article, sure, they talk about the money, about how much they were promised and now they're not going to get it. And that really drives the athletic directors. But man, it's that exposure piece. It is, how do they recruit? How do they get sponsorships? It affects the whole athletic department. And that's also in the article. I did not go through the whole article. It's behind the paywall. Trying to catch up with the comments. Avery Cope, nice to see you in the house. In my estimation, if the four corners cannot get more than $28 million per year, then they're out. You don't take more than $4 million less than the Big 12 and take less exposure. That's a terrible deal. Yeah, it's not good. And again, it's not like the Pac-12 is going anywhere. It's not like it's going to totally dissolve. It's not like the schools can't compete. But the Pac-12 has been suffering because less eyeballs have been watching it. And that has an effect on those sports programs, right? We've seen it in their football programs. The way to get money to pay for coaching staffs, to keep players. And then we're going to be going into this world of possible direct deposit, direct money going into the student athletes to raise their compensation. Besides NIL, I'm talking about conference or school-wise direct deposits, money going to the student athletes, right? And these conferences are going to be building up new revenue streams. And if the Pac-12, if they can't get the student athletes to buy in the fact that their games are on a streaming platform, Amazon, and if those numbers, those eyeball numbers, those ratings drop even more for the Pac-12, they don't have any room to spare as it is. If it drops even more, then there's a narrative that is built about the Pac-12 that is hard to overcome. In fact, that's why they're in the position as they are now, because of Larry Scott. They're paying for the penalties of what Larry Scott did in the exposure piece on Pac-12 network. Just take a look at the volleyball, the Pac-12 volleyball versus Big Ten. Why did it go like this in the last 10 years? Because of the Big Ten network. It thrives off that stuff. Anyways, I'm done with that rant. Let's get to the phone calls. I know people want to call. The floor is yours. You talk about anything you want to talk about. I'll keep my mouth shut as much as I possibly can. You want to talk about the Pac-12? I know there's a lot of rumors out there. You go ahead and speculate. You go ahead and bring us information that you think is valid. You call. The floor is yours. You are the people who direct this show. Bottom line. No doubts about it. Okay. And for some reason, there we go.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan, thanks for calling. For some reason, that first call, it takes a while for it to connect. So I apologize for that. The floor is yours, Ryan.
Not a problem. I'm sure, as some people are telling you now in the chat, the Big 12 just announced what I did my super chat earlier for. They've reached an agreement between OU and Texas and the Big 12 and the media partners to leave for $100 million. That's the total buyout. So that's huge for one thing.
Holy smokes. That's happening during our live show tonight.
Yep. So one thing I think I kind of want to circle back around to the Athletic article. What did Mandel and all the people who wrote that article say needed to happen before the Big 12 was ready to capitalize on anything?
Yes.
The divorce needed to be finalized.
Yes.
So that's a huge thing for one.
Yes.
For two,
I'm sorry, Ryan. I did not put the whole article up on, because I didn't want to do that. It's on a paywall. But what Ryan is saying is absolutely true. They said for the Big 12 to get, basically what they said, I'm paraphrasing, but for Big 12 to get really aggressive, to get everything done what they want to get done, this has to happen first. And now what you're telling me is it just happened.
Yes.
Okay.
So it just happened. The other thing with that is this is the highest percentage of a buyout, of a settled buyout that anybody has had to pay of the 6 teams that have left the Big 12. It's $100 million. We were expecting 160 was the total buyout that they would have had to pay, roughly. So that means closer to about 60%, 65 or so of the value of the actual buyout that's in the bylaws.
Yes.
Yep. So that's $100 million that the Hateful Eight, as they love to be called, already agreed to shenanigans to make sure that the brand new teams that joined the Big 12 got paid a closer to full share or a full share media share. I'm not entirely sure what it is there, but they agreed to take less of a payout so they would get more as they came in. I'm pretty positive that money is going to be used as an inducement to get somebody to come.
Woo!
Whether it's Arizona State, or Oregon, Washington, whoever. But I think the latest consensus and some things that people have been saying behind the scenes, at least from what I've seen, is that there are people from Arizona State that are interested in coming. And one of Utah or Colorado, and then the fourth person in that group of 4 that they would invite would be San Diego State at a full media payout, rather than all the articles that I've seen have proposed a lesser payout for San Diego State up front. But that kind of allays everybody's concerns as far as the 4 corners are concerned. Coming to the Big 12 is that they still want some connections out in California because that's where a lot of their people still are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's where they get a lot of students. Yep.
So there's still a lot there that we need to unpack, but I don't know what's going to happen next, but it's looking worse and worse for the PAC.
Holy smokes. First of all, a message to the moderator, Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the little general. I'm going to be in the studio all night long. The show is not closing for many hours. So I love you, honey. Good night. Get a good night's rest. Okay? Sorry, Ryan. Continue on.
You're good. No, and I just
Holy smokes.
person
okay, well, I'm sorry. Just
no, you're good.
I'm not too bright. So let's go back here. Are we talking? Okay. We're talking $50 million each?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I see that Sports Illustrated. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Black Rain just read Texas, Oklahoma have reached a deal to leave for 2024. The Hateful Eight will get $12.5 million each for the cast and Jack. Yeah, see, all this does, it helps grease the skids for your mark to take action and for possibly some of those targeted candidates to actually say, okay, we're in. This potentially helps grease the skids for expansion for the Big 12 for some Power 5 programs. And the timing of it,
serendipitous, my friend, is what I'd call it. Or somebody busted their ass to get it done today.
Yeah. Wow. Holy smokes.
And I think the other thing I would want to point out is that Yormark's basketball credentials are a huge factor here, and that a lot of people have been talking about adding Gonzaga and all that stuff. That's kind of been the only team that's been talked about. But apparently, I'm not huge on the basketball team names, but I know there's been rumors about talks with UConn, and then it's a Saint somebody. I don't know all of the basketball school names, especially the smaller ones, but it's one of the smaller ones that's like a religious school that's out back east, I think. I don't know. I don't know exactly where it is,
St.
but
Boniface? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Bonnie's.
So there's some rumblings and rumors as well that Yormark is trying to get some basketball only schools added to do some sort of big basketball media value deal as well. So I don't know. I had to add that last little rumor in there as well.
Yeah.
But the big news obviously being OU Texas.
Wow.
So,
thank you, Ryan. I appreciate the phone call. I know we got a lot of calls coming in. Thank you so very much.
Not a problem. Y'all have a good rest of your night.
Call again. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
I just missed someone call. Please call again. Please call again. The phone lines are lined up. Call again, please. Appreciate it. Phone lines, the floor is yours. Breaking news. Oklahoma and Texas have agreed to pay out $50 million each for their exit fee to get out of the Big 12 1 year early to join the SEC in 2024.
Call from
Rebecca. Go Huskies.
Rebecca, the floor is yours. I apologize if I hung up on you.
No, that wasn't me.
Okay.
Could be. No.
Crazy night.
Everything. Crazy. Everything is kind of falling into play. It's kind of weird. Timing has been everything in the last 24 hours. For those who don't know, the Washington state lawmakers dropped the proposal to force Washington and Washington state into the same conference. Essentially, like, it doesn't matter. There's more important and more pressing needs. So
Yeah, very important.
They're like, we could revisit it, but there's, we've got bigger things going on in our state right now that need to be addressed.
So what Rebecca is saying, there was a bill, they were going to try to pass a bill, people in the legislature in the state of Washington, that would connect Washington and Washington states. Any of their realignment decisions, they would be connected. But that's not going forward. Do I have that right, Rebecca?
That is correct.
Okay,
so,
continue on.
Yeah. So essentially they dropped it, and mostly because they were like, well, the Big Ten's not on the table, so it doesn't matter. But it wouldn't have been like not a lot of people know this, but most of the Washington state legislatures went to Washington, not Washington state. So what was created by three members who did go to Wazoo, and then a fourth person who weirdly went to Notre Dame, and I didn't ever said that. But the timing is impeccable because that happened and this happened, and then there has been one rumor that's kind of been brewing now in the Pac-12 for like a week, and it's probably a rumor. I couldn't verify it 100% either way. I told you about this, Greg, earlier.
Yep. Continue on, though.
But it makes absolute sense. And talking it over, so how it goes is 4 members of the Pac-12 have reached out to the ACC. The ACC is intrigued because one member school, apparently Florida State, that took a little while to even find out who it was, because I don't know anybody there. But my sources at Washington and Washington State both kind of confirm this. Whether it's truth or not, that's to be debated. But Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Cal have reached out to the ACC. Apparently, Florida State is the one that's kind of directing this. And what it would do then is it would create a situation in which ESPN would get more money. ESPN wants to own all the time slots that they can. So what it is they have the SEC, Fox has the Big Ten, ESPN has the Big 12, Fox has the Big 12. ESPN also has the ACC. And they're going to want to go, unfortunately for the Big 12, they have to go head-to-head with the Big 12 on Fox. Like, they have no choice, right? There's not a whole lot of time slots. And what this would create now is a situation in which Fox couldn't compete throughout the day, is what they're hoping for. So now you get situations where you have the 4 schools on the West Coast as a pod, and they still have some night games and things like that against each other, but then they could turn around and, of course, like all of their non-conference games that aren't against other Power 5 could be played at that 7:30 because they're most likely against other West Coast schools. So it takes that, and then they could go right into that earlier in the day, that 5 o'clock, and I'm talking Pacific Standard Time, that 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. They could then have a Washington at like a Clemson or a Miami at an Oregon. And it would create some intrigue because the schools never play, and it's a cross-country thing. It would also put ESPN in a position where they essentially own 3/4 of. They would own the entire United States. They'd have the whole thing. Where they'll have Texas with the Big 12. They'll have the West Coast with the other 4, and they would cut into essentially Fox's LA market. And I guess that's the whole purpose of it, is to cut into that LA market as much as you can, because there are there are a ton of Washington and Oregon grads that live in Los Angeles. There's a ton of Stanford grads. Stanford grads are the weirdest thing in the world because they live everywhere but Palo Alto. But if you go to Palo Alto, anybody who's ever been to Palo Alto, you can't afford to live there, so nobody lives there. Like only rich people live in Palo Alto, which is weird. But
yeah,
and again, that's like a weird rumor.
Yeah, that the one part of it that I would question is, would Oregon, California, Stanford, and Washington be willing to sign that grant of rights deal until 2036? Because they would have to. If they had actually joined the ACC, they would have to sign up for that grant of rights, and that is a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
Because the money, their tier 1 money is not good. They have the ACC network, and that is a better provider of not so much access, but money, revenue, than anything that Oregon and Washington, Stanford, Cal are going to get from any type of deal with ESPN Plus or Amazon third tier. So that's one. I don't think they would do it. But then again, if they're that desperate, if they're that scared of a possible almost total tier 1 deal where most of their content is being put on Amazon, their top tier content, if they're that scared, maybe.
Nope.
I doubt it.
And that's the biggest thing.
Yep.
Is I checked in on that with my friends at Washington, and the reason, they most likely they would have to sign it to do it. But the reason why they would do it is Washington and Oregon have a plan in place. If it is, because we don't know who the streaming partner is, we're all assuming it's Amazon.
Yep.
We are all assuming it's Amazon. It could very well be Apple. It could be, it literally could be CBS with Paramount Plus. They could just be like, oh, it's all on Paramount Plus. We have no idea who the streaming partner is. We're guesstimating here. But if it's Prime, the Pac-12 in general has all kind of thought about this as well. But Oregon and Washington are really going to hit it hard, especially in Washington. Their plan is, because they didn't reach the $100 million threshold for the Big Ten, right? So from what I have heard is that they were probably about $10 to $15 million short of that $100 million threshold, which makes a little bit of sense. It would it would definitely dilute it. And, certain schools are definitely not going to say yes, especially because schools like, going into it now, USC, Ohio State, Nebraska, Penn State, Michigan, they're in a head start anyway. They're like, if it were a race, they're 40 feet away from the starting line. That's where they get the start, because they're going to make up so much more money in other areas, right? Like tickets and all the other stuff that's not media related.
Yeah.
But there's a market near Seattle that's virtually untapped. There's a large market near Seattle that's untapped by college football because it's in Canada. I'm speaking, of course, of Vancouver.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Washington and Oregon plan to really flex as much as they can into that market to take it, which would be the second largest city in Canada. Amazon, if it is on Prime, the thought is that they will allow the games to be watched in places like Canada or Japan. Apparently Japan, I didn't know this, but Japan has college football. I don't know if anybody knew that, but Japan has college football. They really do play. Apparently they played the Ivy League a couple of weeks ago in a college football game.
Yep. I think, Amazon does have an international presence. Well, thanks, Rebecca. I know there's more phone calls coming. Thank you.
I know. One last real quick.
Yep.
Yormac, the thought is that Yormac, the prize is Washington and Oregon, and then two of the four corners. He doesn't want all four corners.
Yeah,
I just want to let that know.
Got it.
because they have been in contact. All right.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. I've got a question. I need someone in the chat room to answer this, or someone call me and answer it. Oklahoma, Texas, they have agreed to pay $50 million each. Well, what is Fox Sports getting out of the deal? Let me know.
Call from
Ryan Thomas?
The floor is yours. This is Ryan.
Yes, it is.
All right,
Greg,
Ryan.
How are you?
All right, nice to
It
hear
is-
from you again. The floor is
It
yours.
Yes, it's a hopping show tonight, my
Oh,
friend.
yes, it is.
So one of the things I want to stress importance on is never underestimate the human ego. And one of the interesting things on ASU is, if you recall, Michael Crow was the one that was the Larry Scott backer, the backer of the network. And I think he ruffled a lot of feathers with other Pac-12 presidents because of that whole debacle, to where he's probably mostly dismissed in meetings now or not even heard. And I think, you're talking about a president and an athletic director who fired Herm Edwards in the end zone after a game. I mean, I would not pass leaks past those two.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. But also keep in mind, before 20 years ago, the Big 12 was the premier football conference in the country. Nebraska, A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas State was good. I mean, it was the premier conference, and it had 7 AAU members. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Missouri and A&M left to the SEC, who only had 2 AAU members at the time.
Yep.
So I think it's important to realize now, athletics will always be, it's not the front porch, it's the front yard of the university.
Yep. Front
And
porch.
research will always,
Yep.
and research will always be the backyard. That's where the identity of the family and everything goes on. It's in the backyard. But it's important to realize that just because a team leads or a school leads a conference doesn't mean that those research relationships discontinue. In fact, if you look, 33 of the 69 AAU members are not even part of a Power 5 conference.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's where most of the actually networking goes that brings about the research money. So I think it's important to realize that correlation is not always causation.
Yep. I agree.
Now, I think who knows what's going to happen. I really want to see like I said, I want to see San Diego State and SMU get their chance, but
Yeah.
I come back to this, and I think to touch on something Rebecca said, I could see some point to the ACC inviting Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and California. And I've told you before my reasons, because when you look at the schools that the Big Ten would be interested in the AAC, there's probably about 6 to 8 schools that the Big Ten would love from the ACC for a whole bunch of reasons. Markets. You look at UVA gets them into Northern Virginia. UNC and Duke get them into, Charlotte, Raleigh, the Research Triangle. Lots of money there. FSU gets them in Florida. Miami gets them into Miami. Georgia Tech gets them into Atlanta. And by the way, if you have the Big Ten network getting into those areas and games in those areas, and you're cutting into the SEC's recruiting territory, that's existential for the SEC. It's game over. The Big Ten already has a money advantage. You toss them into that recruiting territory with a network and a presence in SEC territory, the SEC could end up like the Big 12 is now. And people want to think that's crazy, but things change. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that, I think the SEC has pressure to also poach the ACC along with the Big Ten. And for the ACC, going out and grabbing those 4, Pac-12 schools, I mean, they have nothing to lose by doing that. And from Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal's perspective, signing that grant of rights probably isn't a big deal because there's a possibility the league's not even around in 2032, and the Big Ten could pick them up anyway. So, I mean, sorry, I got distracted there, but Rebecca brought up a good point.
Yeah.
To go there. But I think, like you said, there is a lot going on here. And
Cloak and dagger.
Yeah,
Cloak and dagger.
And it's the reason why I can't get anything done at work right now when I'm staying up until midnight doing shit for work. But, I mean...
yeah. Thank you.
But,
thank you for the phone call.
No problem.
Great.
All right, take care, Doug.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Okay. I need somebody in the chat room. I need somebody in the chat room, or give me a call. Research that Sports Illustrated article. There's too many things going on. My phone is blowing up. You guys are blowing up. Someone let me know, what is Fox Sports getting out of this deal? What is making them whole? I need to know that. Before we need to go on. What is Fox Sports getting out of that deal? With Oklahoma and Texas leaving early, they're losing 2 prime, big-time brand schools. They're losing some great content there. They're losing eyeballs on Fox Sports. They got to be getting something. So please tell me what it is. What are they getting? Garrett Raver. Officials with knowledge of the negotiations describe the Fox situation as the missing piece to any agreement. Well, I thought we had an agreement. All right.
Call from
Moen.
Mr. Buckeye, explain to me what is going on. What's going on?
Fox has got to be getting a college football playoff game.
Okay. Now I would think so, but is that being reported at all out there?
That's not been reported yet,
Okay.
but I have to think they're getting at least 1 or 2.
Okay.
At least 1 or 2.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I mean, I just can't see anything else that would be valuable enough to let Oklahoma and Texas walk to a rival a year early while they have the market cornered with USC and UCLA debuting in the Big Ten. I have to think it's a college football playoff game, if not 2.
Okay. Avery Cope says the Sports Illustrated article doesn't specify. Rebecca says Fox details are being finalized. Big 12 has announced Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, we need to know that information because I got some stuff dancing in my head right now. Depending on which way this goes, could give us a very good peek around the corner for what's about to happen. So if it gets finalized, as we're on tonight, and we're going to be on all night long, please put it down in the comment section. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Monovision. I'm sorry I interrupted.
All right. Just want to give a shout out to Larry from Utah. He hasn't called back yet, but I'm going to keep entertaining his conspiracy theories. I have to think tomorrow, Oregon and Washington, and probably Stanford are going to be on the call with their fellow presidents in the Big Ten, trying to push something. I know we don't have a commissioner yet.
Yeah.
And I know you think Gene Smith's out of the loop, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Gene Smith get some calls tomorrow to try and steer the ship for a while. And possibly, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see Oregon and Washington, after the moves that happened today and tonight, making one final full court press on this.
Yeah. I was not expecting that news to hit about Oklahoma and Texas tonight.
Yeah.
That really.
I mean, is that hitting tonight right after all this information has come out has showed me that the Big 12 is going to be extremely aggressive in trying to get some more schools in expansion. And I think, Oregon and Washington are probably going to be looking to cut whatever deal they can cut.
Yeah.
And I'll go even crazier for you with another crazy theory. The ACC is going to be owed $100+ million if Notre Dame leaves.
Yeah.
I know it's crazy.
You guys,
no, I'm just saying.
Oregon
and Washington
what I'm saying is you guys are trying to bury me tonight. But go ahead. Go on.
I'm just saying, Oregon and Washington and Stanford got some boosters with deep pockets.
Yeah.
I could certainly see Uncle Phil making a call to Jack and saying, "Hey, Jack, let's do a 14 package to get in there, and we'll go ahead and pay off whatever you owe the ACC, so we all start at the same starting line in a 20-team Big Ten."
Well, all I can say as of tonight, on February 9th, peek around the corner, the Big Ten expansion door is closed. Now, if we get any intel, we'll change it up. But we were told, and you know this, Monovision, in July, we were told that the decision window on further go or no go for expansion in the Big Ten was from August 15th and October 15th. And in that time period, around October 12th, they decided, no, we're not doing it. They didn't have the votes. They just didn't have the money to do it. They didn't have the votes. They didn't want to do it. And it's a no-go for launch. And that has been, that was 3 months ago, and it's as true today as it was 3 months ago. However, I understand people speculating now because, that Oklahoma and Texas situation happening right after the Athletic article, which I take so seriously, by the way, when they're putting something out there at this time, when they've got 3 sources, an athletic director, and they're upset with the commissioner because they were basically lied to, or whatever. All of this, all these dots are connecting. I'm
just saying, Greg, never say never, because I would never.
I'm not saying never. I'm being clear what we believe here at Peek Around the Corner, because there are people out there who just take our words and they just twist it up. And I just want to be clear from our, we've said a long time ago that right now there is no plans for Big Ten expansion.
Right. Just so we're clear, these are the expressed thoughts of Mo and Vision, and not Greg the Cooler Flugar.
Yes. Yeah, because I get blamed for everything that is said.
Well, you don't get dragged on Twitter.
Yeah.
But why hasn't Notre Dame signed that TV deal with NBC yet either? We've focused on the PAC not getting their media deal done. Meanwhile, Notre Dame hasn't signed their media deal with NBC.
Don't you think we have a stacked enough show tonight, Monovision?
No. Nope. All right, Greg, I'll let somebody else call in, but I just want to end it with this.
Yeah.
No future big expansion without Notre Dame.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Great call, as always. Right. Thank you, Mr. Buckeye. By the way, for those who are new to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. If you love college football, if you love everything about college football, if you love the preseason polls, the way too early predictions, talking about recruiting, and of course, realignment. If you want to hear me singing, maybe I shouldn't bring that up, but we do sing people's schools fight songs. We do everything on this channel. We do everything on this channel. The chat room has drinking games during the show. So if you want to have some fun, we have serious talk, we have fun talk, all centered around college football. And everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome on this channel.
Call from
Tony.
Tony. Yes, sir.
Hey,
The
how's
floor
it
is
going,
yours.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, sir.
Hey, good, sir. Yourself. What's your opinion about the new deal? You know, with OU and Texas leaving. Or do you think Big 12 got their value out of that $100 million, or do you feel like they really didn't get away with as much as they should have?
No, I think they got I think they got a deal. Historically, when those exit fees are negotiated, they're negotiated downward. They get about 60% of whatever the bylaw says. That number, that's a fine number. In my opinion, that's a fine number. I had something posted here and I didn't get to it. Something about SI saying, it was in regards to SI. I'm going to paraphrase it. Someone posted it, but basically SI is reconfirming the fact that your mark said we were going to take this OU and Texas deal when it benefited the Big 12. And so they took the deal. Okay. So what does that mean? Go ahead though, Tony.
Right. Yeah. So, cause I know some people I was seeing on like social media and stuff, you know, some people just seemed a little bit concerned that, you know, we weren't getting the full $180 million and that it was actually kind of a loss for some of these schools, because we know that they're going to probably divide it within the original 8 within the Big 12. And I just kind of wanted to see if anybody else had an input that, like you said, numbers or anything verifiable that was like, are we really? Because in my opinion, I could see some of the new programs. I think one thing that not a lot of people are keeping in mind is they look at the new schools come in from what they are currently rather than what they can become. And honestly, I see these new 4 brands really potentially, not to, you know, knock some of the older Big 12 brands, but I could honestly see some of these newer schools really rise up and become not necessarily OU in Texas, but they have the ability over time. You know, UCF has one of the largest alumni bases. BYU is a national brand already. Cincinnati has had successes in the past, and Houston has really limitless possibilities as well. So, you know, I really look at it like we're not losing much, and it's kind of a good thing for the conference. But, you know, I just kind of wanted to hear your take on it.
Tony, I'm going to give you my take, and please hang with me here, okay?
Yep.
And I'll give you more time at the other end of this rant, okay? Look.
Definitely.
Again, people are going to call me crazy in the chat room like they always do, but I don't even forget about the money. Forget about the money. 50 million per school, 60 million per school.
Right.
This is what Brett Yormark did. He solidified the Big 12 as an ongoing Power 5 conference. When Oklahoma and Texas left, when they declared in 2019 that they were going to leave, so many of us, including me, didn't even know if the Big 12 were even going to survive.
Right.
So forget about the money aspect. Brett Yormark, you know what he was able to move up a deal 18 months out. He was able to move it up.
Right.
He took the exclusive window from Fox Sports and ESPN, moved it all the way up in front of the Pac-12, and he got a deal done. And when he got the deal done, people were so concerned about the money again. $31.6 million. They could have gotten $34.2 million if they would have waited another 18 months. Who cares? What Brett Yormark did is he put a stamp on the Big 12 as saying, we're not going anywhere. We got some exposure. We got the best windows possible we could get after the Big 10 and the SEC and the ACC. We got what we could. And now, going into 2024, 2025 with a new playoff, with that distribution money, Big 12 is going to be able to tell their student athletes, the people who they recruit, in betterment of their athletic department, which is the front porch of the universities, they're going to be able to go and compete and get some of those best student athletes because of the exposure that they're going to get with Fox Sports and ESPN. Brett Yormark won. I know some people don't like him. I get it. A lot of people don't like me. I don't think anybody in the chat room likes me. But Brett Yormark, he won. He got the best possible deal. And now, so one more thing, Tony, and then I'll be quiet. I promise.
Oh, you're good.
And
yeah,
now he got a deal, $50 million, $100 million, $50 million each, that could possibly grease the skids for further expansion. Possibly. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Possibly that's going to cement the Big 12 even more as a conference that's going to be there for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that wasn't promised to anybody in the Big 12 24 months ago. That wasn't promised to Oklahoma State or to Kansas or to Kansas State or to Texas Tech. That wasn't a promise to anybody. But now they've got their future secured. So at the end of the rant, my apologies, but I'm just saying, 100 million, 110, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I've always, part of the reason I called in is I've always thought you had good takes because a lot of people might not like what you're saying, but I've been following you for a while. You're one of the few guys that actually, and I've felt this way too, but it's hard to verify until you see it happening. But a lot of people see, like you said, things for what it's worth today rather than what it can be. And one thing that I've always seen with you is you're always thinking about a little bit one step ahead and how you got to think a little bit business-minded too. I'm a business-minded person myself, so
right.
I have full trust in Brett Yormark just because if you look at his past history, he's literally won everywhere he's been at, and he understands media rights deals. He understands how to create value. And the biggest win that he's had that I totally agree with you is jumping ahead of the Pac-12 because now we're seeing what that's doing to their TV deal and how just being ahead of the line in front of them, it's made it a hard case for Pac-12 teams to really have any value. But that's kind of where I was going to get alluding to the next big thing is, do you really think that, in SMU, I know we're all talking about it but let's be realistic. Like, does an SMU really move the needle very much for the Pac-12, right? And a media rights deal. And I know an SDSU has great value. I think that's a good one that could really be. But does SMU really do that for the Pac-12 on that next potential media rights deal?
I don't think they do in regards to the economics of it. I do think they help with the recruiting. Plus, they're a central time zone school that helps with the bandwidth of Pac-12 scheduling flexibility. So I do think SMU is the clear-cut number 12 school. I have seen reports, and the Athletic was part of that this afternoon, where SMU and the Big 12 have talked, and maybe possibly Yormark wants to take in possibly an SMU to stop Pac-12 from incursion into Big 12 country. My opinion of that, and it's just an opinion, is I don't think Yormark should even pay any attention if the Pac-12 takes SMU. For me, I know this is an apple to oranges comparison, but for me, the only comparison I can think of is the Big Ten taking Iowa State because they're afraid of the SEC taking Iowa State to get into Big Ten country.
Right. And in my opinion, do you think that, because I kind of feel like the Big 12 should really just kind of hold out and wait for that next potential media rights deal rather than really freak out too much and see, I could see maybe, if this deal isn't really good for the Pac-12, I could see maybe one or two teams considering it, but I know the whole deal. I know Tony Altomore puts out a lot of stuff about, obviously he's a Pac-12 kind of homer, but he does have good points. They do create a lot of research revenue. So, realistically, is any of these four corner schools or any of them jumping? not quite sure. Do you think it's probably just best for the Big 12 right now at the moment to just hold out and just really wait and see, and maybe in the next expansion or when you're going to the next media rights deal, and let's say the ACC kind of, because that likely could happen, they're going to get picked off, then that's when the Big 12 should really solidify that, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion is you take the shot when the opportunity arises. You do not. Okay. No, your Mark is going to take his shot once again. No question. He's going to try to get one of those 4 schools. I like Tony. Alomar. He's very smart. He's very kind to me. I like him. I enjoy him. I don't always agree with him. He doesn't always agree with me, but he's very, very smart. I like listening to him. Of course, He has a bias. I have a bias. We all have a bias. Right. Yeah. But I enjoy him. So I got no problems with him. I've got really no problems with anybody, except for a few people.
It's always depends, man. They're always going to give you a hard time, but at the end of the day, you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you hung up.
Oh, no, you're good. I was going to say, we can end it real quick, but I just want to say, I run a recruiting site as well on the UCF side. So UCF.Island, anyone wants to follow. So I completely understand. There's always going to be like haters and stuff. Yeah. And, that's just how it is. But when you're working the media end or you're working these things, you try to be as factual as you can. And one thing I always respect about you is you put out articles and you just straight read it off, and you're not really trying to twist things around. You're just putting out what things are saying, and you put it around a little bit of your opinion. And that's really all I wanted to hear, man.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Love it.
Thank you so much for that wonderful call, Tony. Thank you for your support and your compliment. Yeah, the only thing, look, I love when people, we love disagreement here at Peek Around the Corner. This is a national college football show YouTube channel. There are no strings attached to this channel. We are completely independent. We don't have YouTube membership. We don't have Patreon. We don't have nothing. Whatever we have the information, we put it out here free. The only way we survive is by your donations. But please smash the like button. That's a free donation. But I like everybody. The only people that really get that cause any controversy are the people who do not put their names on their statement. People who troll, people who just twist people's words. You guys know some of them. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Some people are obsessed with yours truly, and I don't know why, because I just don't get it. I don't get the attraction, all right? Even my wife is not attracted. No, I'm just kidding. So, let's get back to your comments. We got so much to go through. Son of Sarek says, I think Greg should sing a fight song for some obscure Division III community college. Well, if you can put a donation out there, and if you can provide me a link to that song, I'll give it a go. D5 Terps, I'm obsessed with you, Flugs, in a good way. That's not weird, right? That's fine. That's fine. I don't know. A lot of people are talking about my unique singing here tonight. They're intimidated by your sheer vocal range of yours, Greg. I don't have a vocal range. I got about 3.5 notes that I can sing. But a lot of people are talking about my singing. Dale Donuts. I'm just listening and not able to engage much in the conversation as I'm currently vacationing in Orlando, but just wanted to say something. Still doesn't seem right. P12 story doesn't seem right. All right? It's kind of crazy. It is. tonight it's crazy. Thank you, Rebecca. She's put a donation for Greg to sing the Evergreen State College Geoducks fight song. And Garrett River is saying, go Geoducks. Thank you for the donation, Rebecca. I'll get back to you in a second.
Call from
Jim Brockoff.
Jim, nice to hear from you. Thanks for coming in the chat room once again. The floor is yours, Jim. What do you got to say?
Thanks, Greg. Well, I still, back to my ESPN dangling in this mess somehow because
That's
as
right.
a K-State fan, I've been through it many times.
Yes, sir.
And I can see ESPN's hands in this, trying to move the valuable pieces to either the ACC, to the Big 12, or even maybe both, with underpayments to the PAC. I can see that happening. And in K-State, being a K-State fan, the Big 12 survived because they did have some leaders. Even though Dan Beebe was not looked at very well, he did save the Big 12 the first time, along with ESPN giving the Longhorns the Longhorn Network our money. And then Bob Bosley saved them here the last time by adding these 4 teams, and then your marks came in and then secured their future, I believe, at least for the immediate future.
Yes, sir.
And I see the ESPN's in this mess. I really believe, and the Pac-12 a year or so ago when Texas left, or Texas Oklahoma left, they should have taken some Central Time Zone schools, but
Yes,
I think
sir.
their academic snobbery may come back to cost them.
Yes, sir. Yep.
That is my view. And the one guy that had called in, and I cannot remember the name, about basketball, I've also heard that your Mark not only wants Gonzaga, he wants St. John's, Connecticut, and Villanova, which are all highly populated places, and we'll have some numbers to watching sports, not just basketball. Even if it's 1% of 1%, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and Hartford, Connecticut, a lot of population. So,
Jim, thanks for bringing that up, because we had a prior caller that talked about a St. John's or that Eastern Coast team for basketball. You remember
right,
when?
I don't remember the caller's name, but
yeah. I think it was Ryan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you remember
So
Brett Yormark did say, and again, I'm trying to present this in a fair manner. I am not the president of the Brett Yormark fan club, even though it may sound like I am. But the guy, when he says something, he actually means what he said. Like he said,
he tries to do what he says. Yeah.
Yeah. He's actually, he's a seller. He's trying to sell. But you know what? We've given this example a few times on the show. A couple times when he says something and people have scoffed at it, it's actually come true. He did say, and I can't remember if it was 2 months ago or 5 months ago. All these days are running together now. Sure. But Brett Yormark did say, I want to have Big 12 as a national conference. Yep. He said the word national over and over and over again. And he said, I want the ability to tell the Big 12 story. The institutions, the student athletes. I want to be able to tell the story all the way from New York to California. Yep. Those were his words. So
and rebrand the conference.
Yep.
And make it hipper.
Yep. And when you, Jim, say it, and when Ryan says it, when other people are saying the possibility, the speculation of a UConn, of a St. John's, of some basketball membership only school joining the Big 12, I say it's a possibility. I say go ahead and speculate, because right now the doors are wide open. Who knows what's going to happen? That very well could happen. I'm not going to scoff at it.
I have no. I mean, the I know someone at an institution that has heard this. That does not mean it's a source, and does not mean it's going to come true.
Yep.
I know, but it makes some sense. You know, basketball money may be changing in the future.
Yes.
He has his ties into New York in the past.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So he has ties, I think, in with Fox and ESPN, which unfortunately I don't think the PAC commissioner does
Yeah.
as
Yep.
much. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
hurting the PAC.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say. I'll let other callers talk, and I appreciate you and your show.
Thank you, Jim. Excellent call once again. Beautiful. I'm sorry. I'm so far behind comments in the comments section. We need a different host who's quicker, who can get through this stuff. Two Masada says, will San Diego pull a heel move and jump to the Big 12? Rebecca, I got to get back to you. I'm so sorry. I don't know where you are. There you are. For Greg to sing the Evergreen State College Geoducks fight song. I don't know what that even is, but if they have a fight song, Rebecca, send it to me. Send something to me on my Twitter account. I'll see what I can do. Garrett Raver, he's a Geoducks fan, so I'll do the best I can. Here's another Geoducks. What is a Geoduck? Stephen Barkus comes in with Geoducks. Pronounced gooey ducks. Oh, I'm sorry, gooey ducks. I don't pronounce any words correctly anyway. So, gooey ducks. Rebecca, send me a link. I'll see what I can do. The last song you gave me to sing was the Washington State Bow Down Husky song, and that was... I pretty much ran everybody out of the chat. So, but that won't be on this live show, so don't worry about it. I get some time to practice a song. Evergreen State College Gooey Ducks. Okay. Son of Sarah says, sing the song in your three notes. A sharp, B flat. You guys are killing me. You guys are killing me. Okay, let's get back to the comments. Phone line again, 763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to our channel. You get notified of our next live show, episodes. You get notified of our show. So please subscribe to the channel. Share the video with your family and friends. Okay, thank you so very much for showing up tonight. The way things are, you should probably all expect us to do a live show tomorrow because we're going to stay on this story. We've been on this story since the beginning. We still have a one at the sports books odds -110. The Pac-12 still is the slight favorite not to lose a school. However, that was before the Oklahoma and Texas, before that news broke that they're paying an exit fee, which could help Brett Yormark grease the skids. Somebody put in a comment in here that Yormark is now ready to be aggressive. Again, I apologize. I had it up for a second. We got 1,000 comments here. Rebecca, thanks for the super chat. I don't think I forgot to thank you. A lot of gooey ducks comment here. James, that 100 million will be one hell of an inducement. Yeah, that's going to grease some skids. It can be used to grease some skids. Okay, here we go. Michael Lisher, thank you for coming into the chat, Michael. I appreciate it. Sorry I didn't get your comment earlier. Dillinger from Sports Illustrated tweeted Yormark now expected to aggressively pursue expansion. We gotta do something here. We got to play something. Things are getting a little dicey. Things are getting a little dicey. We got to play something. Give me a moment here, guys. Give me a moment. It's a little anxiety going on. What's going to happen?
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. Anxiety, filling up every space, no privacy. And silently, it could build and build until you finally see, whoa, it's taking over, damn, no closure, moving.
Jesse Wilson. Wow, just when we thought the Pac-12 was safe, boom. Daniel Monacasso, I'm looking forward to the spring news, Greg. Wow. There's so much going on, ladies and gentlemen. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. We will get to that spring news. I don't know when we're going to get to it. It's going to be sometime in the spring. But, man, this stuff has a life of its own. There's a story out there for those who are new to the channel, and there's a lot of new people in. Thank you so much for coming into the chat. There's a story brewing. The story hasn't ripened yet. We were going to talk about it on December 26th. We were asked to stand down. We stood down. It has to do with ACC country. And no, there is no direct tie-in as of this moment with the Big Ten or SEC. It's a story that I think you would all be interested in. Very interested in, but we're not ready to go with it yet. So hang with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Unfortunately, we had to do a bait and switch on December 26th. We apologize then. We apologize now. We were going to do that story on December 26th. But we were asked to stand down, and you will understand why we made that decision to do so. So hang with us here at Peek Around the Corner. CMS 743, nice for you to enter the chat. I hope the Big 12 can eventually get West Virginia some help out east so they don't have to travel so much. You know, they did get Cincinnati. I know University of Central Florida is far away. UConn isn't all that much better for basketball. You guys are killing me tonight. You guys are killing me. Spring news will likely break in about 20 minutes. Yeah. Bob Husley sure took all the air out of the PAC expansion talk. Again, the Athletic, let's go back into it. Let's just go back into it. Because we got a lot of new people here that just entered the chat. A lot of new people. Let's just go through it one more time again. The Athletic broke this afternoon. We're not going to go through the whole thing like we did earlier. But what we're hearing on Pac-12 expansion, SMU, Big 12, and more. Realignment is back in the news thanks to continued discussions with the Big 12 about the early exits of Oklahoma and Texas. This was written by The Athletic, Stuart Mandel, Nicole Auerbach, Max Olson, Chris Vanini. It talks about the Pac-12 media rights. There's still no deal, and people are getting antsy with good reason. Then The Athletic talks about three people with knowledge of the discussion said Commissioner George Kliavkoff is struggling to find partners willing to play close to what the league was seeking. Two of those sources said Kliavkoff overpromised his members on how many bidders there would be, and what dollar amount they could command. Overpromise. You should not overpromise. Ask the commissioner. A target north of $40 million per school, according to one league athletic director. An athletic director coming out and telling The Athletic that George Kliavkoff wasn't even close to giving them the right information. Not even close. Today, it's uncertain whether the Pac-12 will even be able to exceed the $31.6 million average the Big 12 reportedly landed in a 6-year extension with ESPN and Fox. We don't have a deal because it hasn't been good, said the athletic director, the same athletic director that said that Kliavkoff overpromised. And then here's some more information. The ESPN remains interested in the Pac-12, particularly that 10:30 Eastern time slot. And then it goes back to the expansion, which brings us back to expansion. Adding schools like San Diego State and SMU would not add significant value in a traditional TV deal, but in a streaming service like Amazon or ESPN, it could be interested in the volume. Inviting 2 more schools would add an extra 15 or so football games a year, which would raise the overall dollar amount, say $207 million to $300 million a year. 2 sources believe the new schools would initially receive less than a full share, not unusual in these situations, which would up the existing school's slice of the pie. So you bring in 2 schools, bring them in as a discount, and now the other Pac-12 schools will get a little bit more. They'll get some of that money. And I happen to believe, and we've been talking about it, peeking around the corner for months, that new revenue money, that new playoff expanded revenue money for 2024, 2025, a lot of that would be taken from San Diego State and SMU to make the other schools in the Pac-12 whole. That's what we believe is going to happen. Now, no one else has been talking about it, but we believe at Peek Around the Corner that that's a pathway for further Pac-12 expansion. That would grease the skids. Of course, now the Big 12 just got some bags of cash, and talking about greasing the skids. Holy cow. SMU Pac-12 case is centered on its location in Dallas. It would bring the Pac-12 into Texas, Central Time Zone, which I think the Pac-12 needs to do. Then it goes on. The article says that the school SMU has actually been talking not only to the Pac-12, but the Big 12 and the SACC dating back to last summer. Then the article went on to talk about where does the Big 12 stand. The Big 12 is now well positioned to benefit from any Pac-12 chaos. And baby, we got chaos. And you're talking about being well positioned. Now you just got $100 million in cash. And maybe that gets all spread out to those 8 schools, or maybe some of it gets to be used as an inducement to further solidify Big 12's future. Not just for this TV deal, but for the next one. And then you could possibly grab now a Power 5 program in the Pac-12, use that $100 million as an inducement to make sure that the Big 12 continues to be a Power 5 conference, to enjoy all that money, all that prestige, all that exposure for decades to come. $100 million, that's a lot of inducement. The Big 12 has been eyeing the 4 remaining Pac-12 South schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, since last summer. But here's the money shot. Here's the money shot for those who weren't around at the start of this episode. This is the Athletics article this afternoon. The Big 12 has been eyeing the 4 remaining Pac-12 South schools, as we all know, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, since last summer. But certainly also views Oregon and Washington as prized targets. Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren's departure makes it tough for for those two schools, Oregon and Washington, to assess whether they fit into that conference future plans. The longer the Pac-12's hunt for an acceptable TV deal drags on and stirs doubts, there are doubts that are steering right now about the conference financial future, the easier it becomes for Yormark to make his pitch to those schools. And he's already made those pitched. We won't go through the last part of it. He's been making his pitch. Let's get back to your comments. I know there's a lot of people who've just entered the chat. I just wanted to go through that once again. Daniel saying Fox gets $20 million and the remaining Big 12 schools get $10 million each to allow Texas and Oklahoma to leave a year early. Is that actually what's being reported, Daniel, or is that your thinking, or is that from an actual report this evening? Okay, it is a report. Thank you, Avery Cole. Breaking news all through this live show tonight. McMurphy just tweeted that Fox got $20 million as payment for this. So, is that $20 million? Is that part of what Fox is getting, or is that the whole enchilada that Fox Sports is getting in this deal? Let me know in the chat. Ski Mask Productions, Brett Murphy. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in. $20 million is awful for Fox. What the heck? $20 million seems low. I guess what I'm asking is $20 million part of what Fox Sports is getting to be made whole, or are they getting something else out of the deal? Scott Geyer, thanks for coming into the chat once again, sir. I appreciate it. Greg, the Big 12 is now on the move. Now some of that money must go to Fox, but at what point does the Big 10 go after who they want and would be good for the Big 10? If Brett McMurphy is correct, the SEC and the ESPN wins again. Ryan Martin says a SEC scheduling deal is to the rumor with multiple Big 12 schools. So that is the way to make the Big 12 schools whole. They get a scheduling agreement with the SEC. Understood. $10 million each plus a scheduling arrangement. That's going to help out Big 12 schools down the line. They're going to get some home games. They're going to be on TV against some big-time SEC schools. But my question is, A.V. Cope, $100 million from Texas, Oklahoma. $20 million goes to Fox. $80 million goes to the Hateful Eight. That's $80 million in dry powder to lure P12 schools. I guess I need some confirmation if that is all that Fox is getting, $20 million. Daniel Montecastle says the $20 million is a one-time payment. Kenneth is saying none of that money goes to Fox. Those SEC home games will likely be on Fox. Ugh. I would not have guessed that. I need to see the report on that. Daniel says that's the whole enchilada. Fox Sports only getting $20 million out of this. That's less than I thought they were going to get from this deal. Interesting. Daniel says Oklahoma and Texas also gets a reduced share in the SEC, less than $40 million each year. I think that's just for the first couple of years, right? Wow. So much to go through. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be doing a live show tomorrow, and it could be in the afternoon. Just giving you all the heads up. Giving you all the heads up. So subscribe to our channel. You're going to get notified. Follow our Twitter account at Flag Umpire. We're not going away tonight. We're not going away. I'm just giving you a heads up. So much is going on. You know I'm going to be on the phones tonight after the show's over, and I don't know when this show's going to be over. It's not going to be for a while. So hang with us here at Peek Around the Corner. But I can basically guarantee you there's going to be a live show tomorrow. It could be during the day, could be during that night, could be during the day and at night. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Jose in Texas leaving the Big 12 after the season to join the SEC in 2024 by foregoing $100 million of revenue distribution. Fox will receive $20 million of that, sources told Action Network. I tell you, you know, I keep going back to the Athletic article of today. And the athletic directors saying what they said. More than, okay, there was only one source titled as an athletic director, but there were other sources close to the situation telling the Athletic basically things are not going well in the Pac-12 negotiations. And you got to know, all these things happening tonight, connect the dots. Connect the dots. Cloak and dagger. Cloak and dagger. People are just working it right now. UCF Island, thanks for coming into the chat. I appreciate it. I've heard Fox is getting some games potentially from what I'm hearing. Boy, that would be... This is a great question. Scott Geyer. I'll get to your question in a second, Scott.
Call from
Zeus.
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
It's Zeus. How are you, Greg?
Good. The floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I want to say you do a great show. It's really very entertaining. Best show I've seen in college football.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. And apologize for the voice. I'm a little under the weather, so I may cough, but
no, you're good to go, sir.
I wanted to ask you a question. And it seems like it's a good time for it. You may not be prepared, but when the Big Ten got its big media deal, I noticed a lot of SEC people posted how once Oklahoma and Texas would come in, they would get this massive new deal, blow the Big Ten out. I don't see how that's going to happen, but maybe you might know more about that than they are willing to show.
Okay.
Maybe you have a little bit more. You don't have to talk about it tonight, but if in the future shows you bring it up.
We'll talk about it right now.
Okay.
So your question was in regards to the new SEC deal. SEC people said that we're going to blow away the Big Ten future deal, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Once Oklahoma and Texas come in, they're going to redo the deal and just blow everybody away. I don't know if that's possible, but you might know something about it.
I first of all, I don't know the reports of tonight, so I'm going to have to stay up all night and read what exactly Oklahoma and Texas is expecting to get for the next few years.
Right.
However, the SEC deal that starts in 2024 is massive. And let me explain why.
Okay.
First of all, nobody knows exactly what the total amount of that new deal is. It's $300 million plus for just Tier 1 games. So this is not all their content.
Correct.
The new deal wasn't all their content. It was the Tier 1 games, which is like, I don't know, 13, 14 games, 15 games for the season.
Right.
Plus a handful of basketball games on ESPN plus one game for each SEC school that had to be placed on ESPN Plus. All that was part of this deal. It didn't touch all the other content. So the change from the SEC going from CBS to ESPN, their top game each week, is going to garner them over $300 million for just a small package of, a small content of games, their top of the line games. It's going to put in about $22 to $23 million, basically, approximately, more money per SEC school just on that deal alone. And that other stuff is going to, and you know what? They will redo the deal somewhat because of Oklahoma and Texas going into the conference. It does
make sense.
It does surprise me though in the chat that I see people reporting that Oklahoma and Texas is coming in at under $40 million.
That is surprising.
That does surprise me because that new SEC deal, if I remember correctly, starts July 1st, 2024. And in accordance to the news that's being brought to me by the chat and you all on the phone lines, Oklahoma and Texas are joining the SC July 1st, 2024. So why are they getting less than $40 million? Maybe that was the difference of Oklahoma and Texas not paying more than $50 million each for an exit fee. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Right.
I don't know.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know that they have an existing deal that goes back like 10 years with the other content that they redid for the SEC network.
Yep.
So I know they make a lot more. I don't know how much more. I can't find it on the internet, but
yeah.
Maybe in the future, I guess once this comes out, you'll talk more about it.
Yep, I will. Basically, each SEC school supposedly makes about $6 to $7 million a year on their SEC network payouts. Each Big Ten school, what?
6 to 7 million, you said?
Yes,
okay.
6 to 7 million for their on-the-air content of the SEC network. I'm not talking about this other third-tier revenue that each school makes. People like to mix up the apples and the oranges and the bananas when it comes to reporting revenue. I'm just talking about what each SEC school makes for the SEC network payouts.
Uh-huh.
Now the Big Ten schools make about 8 to 9 million. That's been pretty flat lately. The reason why they make a little bit more, even though the SEC network has more subscribers, is that the Big Ten schools have a part of the ownership of that network, while the SEC schools, they don't have any ownership. So ESPN takes a bunch of money off the top. So that's why the Big Ten schools make just a little bit more. But the subscriptions of both of those networks have been going down. Luckily for both those conferences, the ad buy rates of those networks keep going up. They keep making a little bit more money for their advertising on those networks.
Okay.
Yep.
No, nice to know. Thank you very much. And hopefully in the future, I guess as we hear more, you'll expand more on it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Thanks for your call. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Beautiful. Chat room is exploding with beautiful comments, beautiful phone calls. Thank you guys so very much. T-Duck, your mark going hard on further expansion. Think Gonzaga, their Arizona schools. Son of Sarah, Gene Smith is secretly in this chat using cinnamon. Whatever that word is. Hi, Gene. Rebecca, guaranteed Big Ten rethinks their Washington, Oregon, Stanford stance. Interesting. He's here to monitor Greg. He's BTM. No, he's not BTM. T-Doc, Big Ten is done for 7 years. Not going to say that. That's not our official stance here at Peek Around the Corner. Only that the expansion doors are closed for now. That's all I can say. KSU just got the news alert from our local station. OU and Texas leaving in 2024, paying $50 million each to leave. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question is, do the Big 12 schools, well, it sounds like in this deal, each Big 12 school is going to pocket $10 million each, right? 8 schools, $10 million, $80 million. What are they going to do with that $10 million? Are they just going to pocket it? It looks like they're going to be playing some SEC schools, right? A scheduling agreement, according to reports here in the chat. So that's going to help their attendance and all that stuff. That's a moneymaker. So does each Big 12 school that's getting this $10 million, are they willing to take a little bit off the top, $1, $2, $3 million each? Help grease the skids, help to bring some big Power 5 program in to more solidify their conference as a premier Power 5 conference in the country, possibly being the number 3 Power 5 conference in the country. What do they do with those $10 million? Or do they just pocket it? Because, athletic budgets are still hurting because of pandemic. There are still holes in those budgets. $10 million goes a long ways. West Virginia can take that $10 million. West Virginia can take that $10 million and make a move on their head coach. Give them that big buyout, bring in someone else in. I'm joking for now.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan Martin, the floor is yours, sir.
I'm back again.
Yes.
So you were asking the question about what happens with the extra money that goes back to the Big 12 schools, the Hateful Eight. So originally it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $8 million. The number changes depending on what report you look at. But originally when the Big 12 added the 4 new schools, they all agreed.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter. Anyway,
Okay.
They agreed to give that money up so that way they could pay to bring in the 4 schools at an increased media payout. So the first thing that's going to do is that's going to go to make them whole. But Brett Yormark likely has the leverage there to go to them and say, hey, we can give you guys your money back and make you whole for 2024. Or we can take this money and use it as an inducement for further expansion, future plans, whatever. And I think most every school would agree to that, especially considering where they're at going forward with the future media deal, all that jazz. So that's kind of where we're at money-wise. There's there's serious commitment and unanimity amongst the entire Big 12 to see Brett Yormark's vision through. So be interested to see how it all pans out. But I just wanted to call back and chime in because you were asking the question.
Thank you so much. Thanks for calling. Call back again if we need to. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Bye.
Dave Bauer, thank you for joining the chat. Appreciate it, sir. Pete Thamel, sources. A key part of the deal is let Oklahoma and Texas out of the Big 12 early was a game flip of a non-conference matchup between Michigan and Texas. Texas will now visit Michigan in 2024. Thank you, Dave, for that information. Thank you, Dave, for that information, because that is also money in Fox Sports' pockets. So there is more to this deal than $20 million going to Fox. I'll get to your comments in again.
Call from
Rebecca, go Huskies.
Rebecca, nice for you to call again. The floor is yours.
I just want to say, all right, so everybody keeps talking about the Big 12 going for 6 schools. And I don't know, I don't see 6 schools going to the Big 12. I think Yormark wants 4. I know, especially if he's going to add basketball schools, right? It would make, that'd be a massive conference for basketball if he had 6 Pac-12 and then turns around and adds a Gonzaga and maybe I've seen Villanova and I've seen a Creighton and I've seen a UConn, a plethora of schools in the back, mostly Big East, but that would be a massive basketball conference. Even playing 20 games, they couldn't play each other. But
I understand. There's a certain.
I think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think for football, I think at this point they have exposure, right?
Yes.
So if they were to expand, and we'll find out in the coming days if any Pac-12 schools actually applied, because that'll start to leak.
Yeah.
Because Yormark probably will go aggressively at it at this point, knowing that a potential deal is imminent with the schools. And we already know there's 2 yes votes, because Washington State and Oregon State stand to lose the most, and probably 3 with Cal. But Yormark at this point is going to have to go for money, right? They're at $30.1 or $31 million. Mm-hmm. They're right in there, 30 point whatever and 31. I know everybody wants the 4 corners, but the 4 corners, Bob Thompson, former Fox exec, didn't put but Arizona State above that $30 million threshold on a even distribution scale.
Mm-hmm.
I think Yormark would want to go after it. I can almost guarantee he wants Washington and Oregon at this point, because it'll push the money higher.
Yes.
I don't know if grabbing Utah, Colorado.
No.
And
yeah.
I think he would take Arizona State, because the basketball program it's legit, and they should be there. And I know those of us who've been alive long enough remember the Teddy Bruschi days of Arizona, when the defense was probably top 5 in the nation. That just dated me there. But yeah, I think at this point, I think he would go for money, right? I know you don't talk about money, but what else does he's not going to get much more exposure than that 730.
I do talk money, but in certain situations, people get too bogged down in the weeds when it comes to.
Yeah.
No question about it. Washington and Oregon, if they called Brett Yormark, and they probably already have, And if they decide to take, let's say they decide to join, they themselves, Oregon and Washington, would grease the skids for 2 other Pac-12 schools. They themselves would lift the value of the entire Big 12 conference in money, and that would help grease the skids for 2 other. I agree with you. I mean, I don't look at there. In fact, I'll say it right now. I don't see if the Big 12 was able to expand with any of the Pac-12 schools, I don't see a 4-team expansion unless you had Oregon and Washington. Like you say, the money wouldn't be there. It just wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a Washington and an Oregon, mostly Washington, but I think they could potentially convince a Stanford to come along. And I don't see, I'll say it aloud, I cannot see Big 12 chancellors, presidents ever saying no to Stanford.
Yeah.
Just as an academic, and people don't want to hear it, but as an academic, you want to be associated with Stanford. It's a big,
no doubt about
big deal.
Yeah.
I just think, and Yormack probably would go into it knowing, okay, we might only have them for 10 years, but I mean, there'll be pieces available from the ACC to make up for it in 10 years. But at that point, I personally think if Washington and Oregon were able to convince Stanford, I think if he says no to Cal, it would definitely be like an Arizona State or an Arizona. I don't know if he could probably go with Arizona just because of the basketball.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to get in there.
Right.
I was like, I've been seeing it, and people are chatting about it on Twitter. And I was like,
Sure.
I can't see 6 schools.
No,
also,
I don't see it either.
I do want to point out the longest trip in college football is not like, say, Los Angeles to Hawaii, right? For a West Coast school. In the continental United States, the longest trip would be the University of Washington to whomever is in Florida.
Yeah.
Farthest trip. So UCF.
Yeah. Yes.
That would be, I'll say it, that'll be a logistical nightmare if that came to fruition, because both schools would probably not want to make that trip west and east very often. But that's all I would say. Go
Thank
Huskies.
you. Appreciate it.
Can't wait to see what happens.
Thanks for the phone call, Rebecca. Jose, thank you for all your hard work. Well done, sir. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you so very much. I do not take that for granted. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate it. Tony, thank you for your super chat donation. Peek around the corner. We appreciate you helping us keep the lights on. Tony comes in with the question. Greg, have you addressed Disney's plan to cut $5.5 billion? How will this affect ESPN, college football playoffs, future expansion? No, I have not talked about it, and probably will not talk about it tonight, even though you put a donation in, Tony, because I've heard 2 conflicting reports that just bash into each other. I'll get back to you.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, good evening. Well, good evening. What a nice night for a show.
Yes.
You talk about a lot of smoke. I'm shocked because everything I'd heard was Texas and Oklahoma were in. And I was fine with that. I was actually happy as a West Virginia season ticket holder that would mean one of those schools would come to Morgantown in 2024. All reporting was it's dead.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty big shift in the last few days. I mean, everything I'd heard is it wasn't close. I mean, they tried, but it wasn't close. Now, all of a sudden, you see this, where the deal is made. This is a huge amount of smoke, to me, signaling that something. I mean, I was skeptical 2 nights ago about the PAC Big 12 adding anybody, but now I think there's some smoke because this is just too fortuitous. It happens too quickly. You got to realize ESPN has wrecked conferences before. It wrecked the Big East. It destroyed the Big East. I mean, it did. The Big East was a good conference.
Yes, sir.
Big East was a good conference, and then
The Big East schools with Pitt and Syracuse still in about 2010 declined the Big East's offer, which is a big mistake. A couple of years later, ACC comes and takes Pitt, and Syracuse, West Virginia goes to the Big 12, and eventually the Big East becomes the American Conference. And what was a decent conference that at least had an automatic bid to the BCS became a Group of Five conference. And so I don't think that's happening yet, but I'm just telling you, watch the history. And then the schools involved, SMU was added to the Big East and thought they were headed to an AQ conference in 2010, and then ended up not being one.
Yeah.
And San Diego State was headed to the Big East. You talk about some history repeating. I'm telling you, I thought it was about a 10% chance the Big 12 was going to add any Pac-12 schools. Now I'm thinking it's up to about 35-40 with this news. That's something that's a real concern. Now, I think Kliavkoff should go ahead and keep recruiting schools because there will be a Pac-12. It's just likely to have a few current members and a few new members from the Mountain West if this happens. And it's also possible the Pac-12 schools, based on their academics, their relationships, they might very well stay together. I still think there's a better chance they stay together and leave, but this is a lot of smoke. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
You and I agree, Lewis.
All right, have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Fantastic phone call. Brought up. I tell you, Lewis brought us so many good points. Talking about how San Diego State looked like they're going to go to the Big East. ESPN crushing the Big East Conference. Here's something I want to talk about. I know there's so many great comments in the comments section. The problem with this show is the PATC community is so elite. So elite. There are great comments I'm not even getting to. And I apologize for that. Great humor, great insight. Holy smokes. Just one thing I want to throw out, and that is, we've been talking about Brett Yormark targeting Gonzaga, the reasons he wanted to do it, not only to get that fourth-time slot window for football, but for basketball. And, Fox Sports, they went heavy with Big 12 basketball. Big 12 basketball, the best conference in the nation, in the country. And Fox Sports, that do such a great job with basketball content. And, Fox Sports, they got this deal going on, right, with the Big East. It comes up, I think, 2025. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone in the chat room. 2024, 2025, that deal expires. I'm just, this whole thing about Brett Yormark possibly talking with Fox and getting some Big East prime brand schools into the Big 12 conference. And, the money aspect, the basketball, it doesn't bring in a whole lot of, I think, it isn't like bringing in a full membership schools, right? I don't know. I'm in the back of my mind this whole time. I'm thinking is Fox Sports. Fox Sports, they want Gonzaga in the Big 12. Fox Sports doesn't want Gonzaga in the Big East. Big brands playing big brands. I don't know. Just something to think about. So could St. John's or UConn, is that scenario, is that more plausible than what we, or at least what I thought? I shouldn't put words in all your mouths, but is that something more plausible than I believed in the past? I think so. Now, Tony, Greg, have you addressed, Tony, great question. Thank you for the super chat. I don't have the answer because I've read two completely conflicting reports on this. Two completely, it bothered the bejesus out of me. I will get back to this question, Tony. I will. I promise you, I'll get back to this question. But not tonight. It's a good question, But I read one report. I read another report. They're going to spin this off. No, they're not. Back and forth, so I don't have a good opinion on it either way. Okay. Back to the comments. And I am so far behind. Again, if you're new to this show, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button. And share the video with your family and friends. And if you like college football, stick with us here through the off season into the season. We do everything. We do watch parties, the big games. Of course, my beloved Golden Gophers, who I think are only going to go 6-6 this year. But we do watch parties. We do watch party for big games. We do live shows. We do episodes. We talk about it all. In the live shows, besides my monologue, you guys are the ones who direct the show. I did see some comments here. Oh boy, am I way behind. Holy smokes. Curtis, blue and gold dude, thinks the SEC will swap Nebraska for A&M. I love blue and gold dude. Got no problems with him. Good guy. Entertaining show. Nebraska's not going anywhere. Texas A&M are not going anywhere. No one's leaving the SEC. Just my opinion. Texas A&M's not leaving the SEC. Trent Grinch, hi Flug. I've cracked the code on the FSU spring intel. LFG smashed the like button. Thank you, sir. Greetings from New York City. LFG, greetings to you, sir. Wild Oot, your mark needs quality football teams to drive Big 12 success. Football is 4 more times more valuable than basketball. No question about it. No question about it. D5 Terps, Flugs, how close are you to getting that secret info you weren't ready to release an hour ago? It isn't about me getting secret. We have information, but the story hasn't ripened yet. We was told to stand down. I don't know when we're going to go with it. Again, it's another, and this is not a tease. This wasn't meant as a tease. This was an actual, we were going to report something. It's all going to be so very clear when this happens. It's all going to be so very clear why we had to stand down. Sometime in the spring, D5 Terps, that's all I can say. That's all I can say. Stephen Barkus, PAC 810 Mountain West 2.0 confirmed. I mean, the ripple effects of what's about that, if something, there could be huge ripple effects throughout Power 5, G5, mostly G5 conferences. If Big 12 was able to make some moves on the Pac-12 here in the next couple of weeks. No question about it. Jim says UConn would want football also in the Big 12. No doubt about it, UConn would probably like to do that. I'm not sure the Big 12 would be willing to do that. But again, when it comes to realignment, there are 2 rules in play. The school always calls the conference first, not the other way around. And the second rule, there's 3 rules of realignment. One is the school always calls the conference first. The second rule is there's a domino effect and it starts at the top. UConn is not at the top of the domino effect. UConn will be, a lot of things would have to happen, and then we'll see if the UConn situation ever becomes available. And the third rule of realignment is realignment never sleeps. Okay. Wow, dude. Hello, Arizona State. It's a combo. Are dilutive, duplicating markets, just like BYU, Utah. Yeah, you might have to take both of them. Yeah, you might have to take both of them if you're the Big 12. Cameron B., thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. ACC meeting with ESPN, FSU, ACC schools leaving, ACC early. I don't know anything about an ACC meeting with ESPN. When the ACC winter meetings happen, it's with ACC schools. People, and I'm very thankful for this, but people send me DMs all day long on Twitter, and I love it, so keep doing it. Direct messages at Flug Empire. They give me all the information that people are, the articles, everything. And then some of it I act on, I make a phone call, and BTM and his associates, and we circle it around. So I appreciate coming. I saw someone gave me a direct message, I think it was today, a screenshot of someone discussing the ACC winter meetings and that ESPN was going to be in those meetings, and not really buying it. Not really buying it. Let's make something clear. First of all, just a couple points for those new to the channel. The ACC Gore, the grant of rights, is owned by the ACC, not ESPN. And number two is ESPN loves their deal with the ACC, loves their media deal with the ACC. Love it, love it, love it. And they're not in the business of ripping up a good business deal. And the ACC Commissioner, Jim Phillips, is not in the business of helping some schools in the ACC jettison out of the conference while keeping other schools in. All those myths, none of that is happening. However, there's a story out there that hasn't ripened yet, and we'll get to it when it's good and ripe. But thanks for the comments. Mona Vision, if the PAC seems like it's on the brink of extinction, I think enough votes could get swung to add a Washington, Stanford to the Big Ten. So, Mona Vision, Mr. Buckeye, over and over and over and over again, he says no Big Ten expansion without Notre Dame. He says it every single day in the chat and on Twitter. And now suddenly he says if the PAC seems like it's on the brink of extinction, I think enough votes get swung to add Washington and Stanford. Mona Vision, you're going against your brand right now. We'll see, guys. Again, I want to make it perfectly clear the Big Ten is a no-go for further expansion at this time. Until I hear differently, that's what I've been saying for months. Even though there's certain people out there who say I've been saying for months that the Big Ten's about to expand, completely twisting everything we say here at Peek Around the Corner. The door for right now is closed. But maybe there's cloak and dagger that we don't know of. That's always a possibility. Always a possibility. We shall see. Jesse Wilson, I think Washington State and Oregon State are sweating bad right now. I'm laughing because D5 Terp says Mona Vision is cracking. He's absolutely cracking. Big Ten presidents love the idea of research enough they may throw a life preserver. No question about it. Washington, University of Washington, what are they now? The fifth highest research expenditures money in the country. Number 5, the fifth biggest research university, University of Washington. I think they're number 5. Check out those. I think the 2021 numbers are the latest numbers. Number 5, and what is Stanford? Number 7, number 8. Johns Hopkins, number 1. We shall see. If I get any intel, I'll move it along. I will be on the phones all night, all morning long. I can guarantee you that after this show. Kenneth, no conference will get more than 16. Too many teams competition in that conference for playoff spots. Thank you, Kenneth, for joining the chat. Thanks for putting out your opinion. I don't think 16 is a number that a super conference will stop at. However, I will say that the bigger the conference, the more chances of fracture. Realignment never sleeps. But I don't think 16 is a number that you can't go over 16. I used to hear that all the time on Twitter and message boards that you can't go further than 14. Can't go further than 14. Economics won't have you go more than 14. And I would say, nah. Not really. That number isn't. Expansion playoffs may expand again to 16 teams. Super conferences, and I always come back to this over and over and over again, and I don't really see any YouTube channels talking about this, but that Supreme Court, that the decisions they made in regards to the NCAA, basically hammering that organization, which by the way is an organization built by the university presidents. They do the hiring, they give them the enforcement tools, the staffing. But the Supreme Court hammered away at the NCAA, hammered the NCAA in their past for treating student athletes different than students. But there seemed to be a little bit of light, a little bit of a, I don't know how to say it, a little bit of a, Supreme Court gave a little bit of light to where the conferences, it's okay that the conferences make decisions. Like if make decisions with the student athletes because the universities are tied with the conference. They give their votes. The student athletes choose to go to the university. So I think conferences are going to become more and more powerful as the years go on. Bigger the conference, more powerful. That's why the SEC has never been more powerful than it is tonight. Same with the Big Ten. That's just how things are moving. Things are consolidating. And I think the conference are going to get, that's why we talk about peek around the corner, how the walls are caving in on Notre Dame as the years go on. Because super conferences are going to be able to do more and more stuff for their student athletes. Compensation, opportunities, sponsorships, setting their own rules possibly even creating their own universes. SEC, Big Ten. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I would hate for that to happen. But I'm just saying, I don't know what I'm saying. Let's get back to your comments. Curtis, 20 to 24 teams is where the Big Ten and SEC is moving towards. Jay doesn't see the Oregon in the Big Ten. Trent Grinch talking about how I wouldn't want him to talk about something. I don't know what's going on in the chat. Something about FSU, I think. Rebecca, University of Washington, created the COVID test in the span of a few weeks back in 2020. When they put their money into things, they get it done as a school. Son of Sarah, chances Hopkins started a football program before we died. I don't think there's much chance of that happening. Rebecca, does UCLA and USC have an expansion vote yet? I think they do. I really think they do because they did sign a Big Ten agreement. There is something in place. I do think they have a vote. They don't have a veto pen. They don't have a veto over any other school. That's not how the Big Ten works. That's not how the SEC works. That's not how things work. But they do have a vote. No question about it. I think they do. I'm pretty sure they do at this point. I'm pretty sure they do. Michael Vernon, Greg, what is a summary here for those of us just now joining? You want me to give a summary of what we've been going through tonight? Well, the summary is this. Let's go through it. I know we have a lot of new people joining the chat. We're going to go through the Athletic article one more time. Let's do it. The Athletic article out this afternoon. What we're hearing on Pac-12 expansion, SMU, the Big 12, and more. This was written by Stuart Mandel, Nicole Auerbach, Max Olson, Chris Vanini, and this was all before the news broke that Oklahoma and Texas were leaving the Big 12 1 year early to the SEC. They talked about realignment is back in the news thanks to continued discussion within the Big 12 about the early exits of Oklahoma and Texas. And sure enough, a few hours later, bam, it happens. Oklahoma and Texas leave early. Pac-12 media rights last July, shortly after USC and UCLA defections. The Pac-12 opened negotiations for its next media rights contract, which would take effect with the 2024 season. 7 months later, there's still no deal, and people are getting antsy with good reason. The article talks about, and this is the important part of the article in my mind, 3 people, 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 people said, with knowledge of discussions, said Commissioner George Kliavkoff is struggling to find partners, willing to pay close to what the league is seeking. 2 of those sources said Kliavkoff overpromised his members on how many bidders there would be and what dollar amount they could command. A target north of $40 million per school, according to one league athletic director. One athletic director said that they were told to expect and command north of $40 million per school. Today, it's uncertain whether the Pac-12 will even be able to exceed the $31 million. And now at the end of this here, it says, we don't have a deal because it hasn't been good, said the athletic director. So this athletic director have seen the numbers. We've seen reports out of I won't say the names, people out west saying that no numbers have really gotten in front of the Pac-12 presidents unless you sit in the executive committee. The president of Washington State, the president of Washington, the president of Stanford. But the other 7 presidents supposedly hasn't seen any numbers. I highly doubt that. After reading this article, it says we don't have a deal because it hasn't been good, said one AD. Then the article goes on and says ESPN remains interested in the Pac-12, that 10:30 Eastern time slot. And then it brings us to expansion, adding schools like San Diego State and SMU would not add significant value in a traditional deal, but the streaming deal, maybe an Amazon, maybe an Apple TV would be interested in adding these schools for the inventory purposes. At the end of this part of the article, it says, while those sources still believe the media deal will be completed before any expansion becomes official, they also understand there could be pressure from media partners to swap the order of events so they would know exactly what the inventory will be. So we've been hearing reports all along that the Pac-12, George Kliavkoff, will get the deal done first and then look to expand. It sounds like maybe Amazon, whoever this media partner is that's directing traffic. It sounds like that media partner possibly wants the Pac-12 to expand first, get more members, so more inventory, and then we'll figure out the Pac-12 deal. We don't even know which way this is going yet. Doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good. Then the article goes on and talks about this SMU's Pac-12 case is centered on its location in Dallas, which would bring the Pac-12 into Texas and the Central Time Zone, which we at Peek Around the Corner think is very, very valuable. Something the Pac-12 needs to do. Along with solid academics, top 75 national university, SMU is working to become an R1 research school, and it has a lot of money in endowments, a lot of active big money donors. We've been talking about that. SMU, they've got the money. They have the money. They have the desire to support their athletic department. Very attractive for the Pac-12. Then the article went on and said the Pac-12 has not only had discussions, SMU has not only had discussions with the Pac-12, but they've had it with the Big 12. They've had it with the ACC all the way back to last summer. And then it talks about where the Big 12 stands. Now, this article was written before the news broke that Oklahoma and Texas got a deal done along with Fox Sports, ESPN, and the current Big 12 schools for Texas and Oklahoma to leave a year early to join the SEC in 2024. Where the Big 12 stands, the Big 12 is now well positioned to benefit from any Pac-12 chaos. And now they're even in a better position. This was written before the breaking news of tonight during this live show. The Big 12 is now well positioned to benefit from any Pac-12 chaos. But first it needs to finalize its divorce from Oklahoma and Texas. And what just happened? Hours after this article was written, the divorce happened. It's almost like the Athletic knew this was going to happen. And then all the other parts of this article kind of just fills in the rest of the puzzle, doesn't it? A lot of dots are being connected. Then further in the article, it says the Big 12 has been eyeing the 4 remaining Pac-12 South schools, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, since last summer. And here's the money shot. According to The Athletic. According to the article that was dropped this afternoon that sent a shell shock through everybody. The money shot, but certainly Brett Yormark, but certainly also views Oregon and Washington as prize targets. And then the rest of this is not much to go by. But that is the summary. We had that. The Athletic, the article comes out, then the breaking news. Bam! Oklahoma and Texas, they get the deal done. They're going to be playing SEC football in 2024. It sounds like the deal, according to people in the chat who are so elite. They fill this in on what's going on. Sounds like 8 of the Big 12 schools are going to get $10 million each. Fox is going to get $20 million each. Sounds like there's a flip in the schedule in 2024. Instead of Michigan playing at Texas, which would be an SEC owned, they would own that game. ESPN would own the distribution rights to that game. That game is now being flipped to Texas versus Michigan, which means it's a Big Ten game, which means Fox Sports owns that game. Sounds like that's part of the deal as well. There's reports out there that now, according to Sports Illustrated, Brett Yormark is now going to get aggressive. It's like he wasn't aggressive before. But now he's going to get aggressive. Man, I'd like to be a fly on that wall, because here's Brett Yormark talking about all this. He says, look, I'm going to try. Months ago, he says, look, I'm going to try. I feel positive. I'm going to move this exclusive window negotiations with Fox Sports and ESPN, and I'm going to move it up 18 months. Come on. He's not going to do that. He does. Fox Sports and ESPN agrees. They'll move up. They're willing to talk to him in this exclusive window. They're willing to move up the schedule 18 months. And then Brett Yormark says, well, I feel good. I think we're going to get a deal. This deal might get done in 2 to 3 weeks. Brett Yormark said that in public. Then we had some West Coast writers saying, kind of mocking Yormark and saying, boy, he just sells and sells and sells. He sells and sells and sells. When is he ever going to close? What happened? 2-3 weeks later, Yormark closes the deal. They get the deal done. $31.6 million. Some people scoffed at that. What's $31.6 million? Big 12 could have gotten more months from now if they would have waited. Oh, really? Do you see that media market shrinking, contracting? You seeing the layoffs? You really think Big 12 could get more money later? No. Brett Yormark did the right move. And what else did Brett Yormark do? He got the best available windows, slots in Fox Sports and ESPN that he could possibly get. And then what did Yormark say after that? He said, I want a fourth time window. I want content. I want to go all the way from New York to Los Angeles to California to tell the Big 12 story. I want to be a national conference, and I want that fourth time window. And what did he just do today? He just made a deal with Oklahoma and Texas. They got some money. And now Yormark says he's going to be aggressive. Look out. Look out. Okay, rant is over. Back to the comments. Again, the phone number is 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Those last three are field goals. Unfortunately, Gophers kicked too many of those. 763-260-1333. Scott Geyer, just a wild hair. What if the Big Ten and the Pac-10, Big Ten and Pac-10 just merge? Keep the Rose Bowl. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. It had been reported that the TV folks wanted to keep 5 power conferences for now, but they didn't want to pay the 5th. That's a very good way of putting it out there, Rebecca. Absolutely. T5 Terps, dude, Yormark says it. You believe it. TF Osk, thanks you for joining the chat. I appreciate it. Any PAC school will be desperate to move. Price goes down when brands are desperate. Again, we always go back to the same point. We're going to find out here soon. Oregon and Washington. Big 12 would take them. Oregon and Washington. Are they willing to risk here in 2023? Are they willing to risk sign a 6-7 year grant of rights, to sign a deal that puts most of their top content into a digital streaming platform, knowing that the Pac-12 country has not been watching Pac-12 football in the last decade? The numbers have dropped. Is Oregon and Washington willing to sign that deal, whatever deal that's mostly streaming? It's tough. It's tough to sign that deal. Black Rain is saying the 20 million is separate from the 100 million for the remaining 8 schools. So, where is that 20 million coming from? Because we were told, Black Rain, that Oklahoma and Texas were paying $50 million each. Is it $60 million each? Let me know. Let me know. TF Ost, business advertiser sponsors are running the conferences. Changes in global and national economies is what dictates conference additions or subtractions. Patrick says ACC schools will vote to disband. 8 votes needed. North Carolina, Virginia, Washington, Stanford go to the Big Ten, 20 teams. I will say this, peek around the corner, it's our position. We do not believe in the dissolution theory. We don't. A lot of smart people do. A lot of smart people don't. They're all smarter than I am, but we just don't believe dissolution theory is reality. And I really even can't go into why, because that might have to do with our story that we're working on for the spring. But some of it has to do with the dissolution theory doesn't take care. I don't know how to say it. I'm just going to leave it like this. One of the problems with the dissolution theory is the collusion aspect of it. And I'm going to leave it that. I'm going to leave it. We're going to do a live show sometime in the spring to explain this situation here in the ACC. Get back to the comments. K-Do, per Max Olson, Oklahoma and Texas are not writing $50 million checks. They're forfeiting $50 million in revenue distributions. Big 12 bylaws call it buyout fees. Okay. All right. So that's why Oklahoma and Texas are going to be receiving less than $40 million per year going forward for a while. Okay. So they're not writing checks. It's just that the Big 12 schools are going to get a little bit more. Tony, December 26th is a black day for the man in black. Son of Sarek, the Chinese put the ACC gore in their balloon and flew it over America as one giant troll for everyone here. Rebecca says 25 million per year. What is that? What are you what is that? What are you talking about there, Rebecca? Is that 25 million per PAC school? Come on, guys. You're killing me. You guys are killing me. The day the strings were attached, there's no strings attached. There's no strings attached. We still are the rebel outpost of college football YouTube channels. Okay. Rebecca says 25 million is the current Big 12 media deal. that expires in 2025. That is correct. John Coy, thanks for entering the chat. Appreciate it. Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado should be calling the Big 12 tomorrow, and that's the problem. That's the issue here. Michael Vernon, Greg, thanks for doing this. Thank you for coming into the chat. I appreciate it. I hope my summary was okay, Michael. We've been through it a couple times tonight, but I know there's new people entering the chat. I don't know what you call this, John Coy. I don't know if you call this a prisoner dilemma. I just know that, can you trust the guy next to you? Can you trust the lady next to you? The president, the athletic director next to you? At this point, you've been working on this for months. You've seen UCLA and USC leave. You saw the University of California Board of Regents. I'm going on another rant. University of California Board of Regents put UCLA through the ringer and get a calamony out of it. You're sitting there as the Arizona president, as the Arizona State president, as the Colorado president, as Washington and Oregon. And you're sitting there and you see the Big 12 come in and swoop in and get a deal done. Now all you're hearing about is a streaming deal, and the money might not even get up to $31.6 million. You've been told that a certain deal is going to reach north of $40 million. You've heard your commissioner go out and say UCLA would make less if they joined the Big Ten. Everybody in the Pac-12 knew that wasn't correct. You've heard the commissioner seriously say once and twice that, we're waiting to see if Deion Sanders becomes the head coach of Colorado because that will elevate our TV deal. You can't say this stuff. You cannot hurt your credibility inside the house. Forget about outside the house. Inside the house. Do they trust George? Then they see George go in a booth. It's SMU basketball game, and he's sitting there, and all the cameras on him. He's got a grin from ear to ear, and I thought that was an indication the deal was done, or at least at the 1 yard line. And then it's not even the case. You went out in public, the SMU basketball game. People got signs in the stands. People got PAC. You're doing all this, and the deal's not even done. And it doesn't even sound like you're not at the 1 yard line. You haven't even crossed midfield yet. So John Coy says Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado should be called the Big 12. Someone's going to be calling the Big 12. Someone's going to be calling the Big 12. I got to remove this stuff here. Somebody ruined my I got it. That's my rant. Okay, back to the comments. Chris George, nice to see you in the house. I appreciate it. We are the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway, Kirk Gowdy Avenue. Chris George comes in with the pro rata clause in the new Big 12 deal calls for 2 Power 5 schools and up to 4 max only. Now, see, for me, and I don't mean to minimize anybody's school's value, but we got to be blunt here. There's a difference between a four corner school, grabbing Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, and between that and grabbing Oregon and Washington. You grab Oregon and Washington, and I'm not saying they're going to. Again, when we started the show, we still have it as a slight favorite that the Pac-12 holds together. Those odds might switch tomorrow. We shall see here at Peek Around the Corner. But Washington and Oregon, if you get a Washington and Oregon, and if you choose to grab another two schools, you'll be able to do that. Pro rata clause or not. I mean, Fox Sports isn't going to say, I don't think they would say no. The pro rata clause doesn't entail Fox Sports in the new Big 12 media deal, but I'm just throwing this out there. If you get a Washington, Oregon, Arizona State, they're all going in at $31.6 million. They might be going in a little bit more. It might elevate the whole media package value for those schools in the Big 12 because Oregon and Washington are higher value than $31.6 million. But I get your point, Chris. Thanks for the info. Ted brings up a good point here. Have to wonder what Amazon's thinking. They were denied by the Big Ten, even willing to overpay. Now they might have a whole conference disband instead of going with them. You know, I truly believe whatever happens, Pac-12 is not going to completely dissolve. Just my opinion. No matter, I mean, something's going to remain and they're going to build themselves up with some Mountain West schools if something happens. Again, we believe there's a slight favorite that nothing's going to happen to the Pac-12. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. Today, things changed a bit, right? But here's Amazon, who offered more than the $350 million that CBS and NBC did when they got their Big Ten package for the next 7 years. When NBC got primetime and CBS got the afternoon, Amazon went to, it's reported, $380 million. Big Ten said no, because they choose the exposure angle. Big Ten looked into it. They had extensive talks. They had consultants, and they decided against it because for right now, it's still better to go with those networks than Amazon when it comes to exposure. Now Amazon's working a deal, but you know, they're not going to overpay. Good comment, Ted. Fighting Illini, Ted. Good comment. Joe says that Clown Cough was doing a dog and pony show. He's bluffing with a bad hand. That's a bad bluff when you're going. Ugh. Oh, absolutely. Rebecca, Pac-12 still has a conference football playoff deal. The champ gets in probably regardless of what the conference looks like. And that's why, let's say something happens. Let's speculate here. This is speculation. Okay? For those out there who want to twist words that peek around the corner, this is the speculation. Let's say Oregon and Washington go to the Big 12. Let's say Arizona State go to the Big 12. Those 6 teams, they're going to, the remaining Pac-12 schools, the other 6, will bring in some Mountain West schools, whatever, and have a conference, and they'll still be designated as a Power 5 until at least up to 2025. Rebecca's right. What designates a Power 5 and a G5 is the playoff deal. That's what designates conferences. That's why you see people on Twitter going, Pac-12 is no longer a Power 5 conference. Or they say the Big 12 is no longer a Power 5 conference. Yes, they are. They're in the agreement that was agreed upon, the playoff structure. The Power 5 conferences get 80% of the distribution, the revenue. G5 get 20%. Now, in 2026, here at Peek Around the Corner, we often call that the Great Gold Rush. That's where the world can change again. because 2026, we do not have a decision on what the college football playoffs are going to look like. We don't even know who's going to be invited in the room to vote for it. So, Pac-12 is not whatever happens tomorrow, the next day. The Pac-12 is not going to be totally eliminated because they are designated a Power 5 conference. That's not going away until 2026. Maybe 2026 it goes away for the Pac-12, depending on how well they do and all that sort of thing. Or the Big 12 or whoever. Yeah, but Rebecca's right. Pac-12 is going to remain a Power 5 conference at least through 2025, and probably well beyond. That's just the reality of it. Monovision. Sure, when Moan speculates, he's a crazy conspiracy theorist. When Greg does it, he's a journalist. Absolutely correct, Monovision. You finally have it figured out. John Coy says Gonzaga is going to end up in the Big 12. We think that's going to happen. We think that's going to happen at Peek Around the Corner. Joe also says he thinks Oregon, Washington, Arizona, and Arizona State. Fox can get them all on the cheap towards the Big 12. Just let me check my notes. I got 1,000 notes here. And if you have sent me a DM here at Twitter, it's probably going to take me a while to get back to you. Be patient. Yeah. Okay, I apologize for that. Again, I just gotta... Yeah, I would... I don't know. It's probably too early for me to say this, but I would... Give me one more second. I apologize. Give me one more second. We were talking earlier this evening in regards to possibly, I believe, I'm going to get some names wrong here. Jim, I think, brought it up. Jim, Ryan, I think, brought it up. I do think there's some smoke in Brett Yormark trying to get a Big East basketball team. We're going to talk about more of that tomorrow. We hit on it lightly tonight. I'm getting thrown off by a message here. Very serious message about that whole situation. So yeah, I think Yormark's getting aggressive. And it's not just about football. But we're doing a live show tomorrow. So I don't know when. Stick close to us. Go Flug Empire on our Twitter account, Flug Empire. I'll be putting it out there. And we're not going to do a bait and switch on you like we did today, where we're going to talk about the ACC. We're going to do the ACC way too early predictions, where we're going to get into the unequal revenue sharing of the ACC. Again, I apologize. We did a bait and switch on you. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Pac-12 again. So I'm not going to pull a bait and switch on you. So check it out. But yeah, we got something here about Yormark being aggressive in the basketball space. So, okay. Opie, thank you so much for your super chat. Once again, thank you for your generosity. You've been a very good friend of the show. Your generosity, man, has been just huge. Thank you once again, Opie. Appreciate it. Let's all chip in for those 5-hour energy drinks for the hide. To hide the host with the host with no strings attached drinks he will need. You guys are killing me. Now that's the whole strings attached stuff. Thank you, Opie. Appreciate it. Wow, dude, you're the man, Greg. Thanks for forming this community. You are the community. Thanks for all of you. Thanks for all of you. You made this a very special PATC community. Your humor, you're disagreeing back and forth with each other with class. You treat each other with dignity. I had to remove a few comments tonight that did not fulfill those standards. But 99% of the time, you guys just are incredible. Your phone calls blow me away. Your generosity blows me away. I do have to say, you all challenge me too much on the singing aspect, but I'll try to handle it. John Coy, I could see St. John's, New York connection. I'm not going to... Actually, there was not a school named. I shouldn't have said anything. But I would, if someone... yeah, there's a Big East basketball team right now in their wheelhouse. Yeah. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of reporting tomorrow. I would keep your eyes and ears open for a basketball story about all this, what's going on, possibly tomorrow. There is something. We got something here, but we will go into it tomorrow, hopefully. Okay? Son of Sick, what time will your show be on tomorrow? I have no idea. It could be 12, it could be 1 o'clock Eastern time, or we could do it tomorrow night. We will let, I don't know, but I'll give all you guys as much of a heads up as possible. Check us out at Flug Empire. Keep checking Flug Empire at FLUGEMPIRE, and we'll get to it. Now, there was a great comment here. Something about research, Stanford, Washington. And I blew right by it. Jamie Wiley. Where are you, Jamie? There we go. Sorry I didn't get to your comment earlier. I don't know much about Cloak and Dagger stuff, but I do know that from the University of President's perspective, the grant money, Stanford and Washington are Pac-10 teams that the Big Ten wants. And yes, we agree with you, and we stated it. Big Ten presidents want Stanford to be a Big Ten university. And Washington, of course. We have talked about that. In regards to the Cloak and Dagger stuff, for those who don't know me, because there's so many new people in the chat, so many people coming to our channel each and every day, I do want to say this. First of all, thanks for coming. Subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you haven't done so. Share the video with your family and friends. But please subscribe to the channel. If you go to Flug Empire, you go to our pinned tweet. There's a Los Angeles Times story about us breaking the USC story. There was the part of that story, and it is talked about in the Los Angeles Times article. It's also we talked about it on this YouTube channel in episode 22. During that whole thing that happened this spring and summer, there was so much cloak and dagger stuff going on. Now everyone's starting to drink again because that's the drinking game in the chat room. When I say cloak and dagger, everybody takes a drink. There was so much cloak and dagger stuff going on in that whole Big Ten situation that it took people by surprise, shock when we told the story. And if you want to go read about it, again, go to the pin tweet or go to episode 22. But we proved that it was going on. We actually did some right stuff, and we took pictures, we documented, we gave it to media companies. Big Ten was tracking us. There was so much stuff going on. And that's what I wanted to say. There's so much stuff going on right now. The cloak and dagger is real. Which way this sucker goes, we don't know. But there is so much going on. And we've talked about it for weeks. Because I'm a fan of the Pac-12. I'm a fan of the Big 12. There's no strings attached here. But we've been saying, get the deal done, George. Get the deal done. Because if you don't get the deal done, you're creating a vacuum and something's going to fill it. And what really fills it up is distrust. And if all these 10 Pac-12 presidents are still united and haven't picked up the phone and called Brett Yormark, then I give those 10 a lot of credit. I really do, because they are really loyal and together and will not be broken apart. If at this point none of those 10 have given Brett Yormark a call, remember, 3 rules of realignment. One is the school always calls the conference. These conference commissioners don't call the school. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. School calls the conference first. The number, I can't even remember the 3 rules now. That's the first rule. The second rule is realignment never sleeps. And who knows, I can't remember the third rule is. Someone remind me in the, Opie, thank you for the donation again. With all this cloak and dagger stuff, I still haven't found my pizza. I ordered over 3 hours ago. All right. I'm not going to say that phrase anymore tonight, but just to give you a heads up and everybody else, we're going to say it again tomorrow because holy smokes. Why do you think The Athletic put that article this afternoon? Why do you think they dropped that? Those are 4 outstanding reporters. Outstanding. Why do you think they put that in today's article? When I saw that, I said, holy cow. And then I had to tell all of you we're switching the program. We're switching the program. Thank you, Opie, again for your incredible generosity. I know we're having a lot of fun tonight, but I want you to know that. Okay? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. 4th rule, never accept Texas in your conference. The Trench Grinch, college basketball, PAT's coming soon. No, I would not be. I love college basketball. I follow college basketball. But this channel is only for college football. Only for college football. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. college football. When you come here, when you put on our YouTube channel, you know what you're getting. One guy in a black outfit, the rebel outpost of college football, right? We talk about everything college football, everything. We even sing fight songs if your team wins the game, and if you put a donation in, if your team was the underdog. We talk about everything college football. You know what you're getting when you. I don't do interviews. People don't interview me. I don't interview other people. I love everybody. I love everybody. They're great YouTube content. I love them all. But I'm very big on branding and just very big on I want to meet your expectations every single day. Every single day. So we talk about everything. We got a huge bandwidth, but it's all on college football. It's me and you, a bunch of nobodies talking, speculating. And as you know, we do have our intel from people in the money perch. No, it's not perfect. No, they have only one real angle at it, but it's incredibly accurate over the years. And the intel in this, we only had a nugget. We only had a nugget, and I'm going to share it because there's people new in here. But on January 31st, we did a live show one day after the Pac-12 meetings, and it was basically called, you can go on our YouTube channel and check it out. It was basically called One Pac-12 School Shows Displeasure in the Pac-12 Meetings. At least one school. We heard it was Arizona State, which kind of blew our mind because our bias, we believe Arizona State was like one of the top 3 most loyal Pac-12 schools, especially during the Larry Scott years. So we were not expecting that intel. And it came in, and it is real, and we talked about it, and yeah, people bashed us over the heads. That's fine. We don't know if it really means anything, but in that meeting, in that Pac-12 meeting, Arizona State showed displeasure towards the commissioner and towards the 3 executive committee people, if you remember that live show, at the process of how this has been unfolding. Now, since that day, what have we witnessed? We witnessed the Arizona athletic director doing a rah-rah type of interview, which is good. I have nothing against that, but he basically was saying positive things about what's been going on here in the meeting negotiations. Arizona athletic director, rah-rah. Utah athletic director, rah-rah. Comments. Rick George, the athletic director of Colorado, in an interview with Wilner and Kazana, had a rah-rah interview basically saying, why would we join the Big 12? Things of that nature. What's the one athletic director we haven't heard from the Four Corners schools? What's the one president we haven't heard from the Four Corners schools? Not just in the last week, but for weeks. No rah-rah coming out of Arizona State. Now, does it mean anything? Maybe not. Maybe not. Still, maybe not. But we thought it was given to us from the most impeccable source from Arizona State, the most impeccable source for years of him giving us information on their hockey program. So what I'm saying is we put that out there just in case if there was other possible connection, information nuggets that come out that maybe we could connect the dots. Probably not, but we wanted you all to know. And since then, what has happened? According to the Athletic article today, an athletic director told the Athletic that it's not good. Things are not good. I'm paraphrasing it, but you know what I mean. We've been through the article. No, three sources told the Athletic A, B, C, D. Things are not good. Is one of those from Arizona State? I'm going to guess yes. Just a guess. Okay, back to your comments. Plugs, has the story ripened yet? No, it hasn't. Not since the last time you asked me, which was about 45 minutes ago. Yeah. Monovision, the addition of Opie's Pizza was the only way Klayevkov could have hit the median number he needed. Rebecca. How long until Texas gets upset about the horns down? First SEC game. You guys are killing me. Charles M says, that's all Fox got, $20 million payment. It sounds like, Charles, they also received, in 2024, Michigan was supposed to play at Texas. That's been flipped. Texas is going to play at Michigan, so that's going to be a Fox Sports game. So they're going to get some money out of that as well. Who knows? Maybe there's other different scheduling that's going to happen that's going to help the Big 12 be made whole. Rebecca Salisbury, my only issue with all this talk is Wilner put out his piece hours after the Athletic, and it was vastly different. Someone's getting fed lies or is feeding lies. Rebecca, can you, I want to go over that, if you don't mind. Can you copy and paste and put it into my DM? And I want to go through what he said this afternoon. I haven't seen it. If you could possibly do that, Rebecca, copy, paste, put it in my DM, and I want to go through it right now, tonight, if possible. If everyone can just hang on, appreciate your patience like always. This is a live show. This is a live show. Thank you, Rebecca. Please keep bringing your comments. For all those who have talked to me on Twitter throughout the night, saying thank you for the live show, good job, I will get back to you all and say thank you for listening and all that stuff. I will get back to each and every one of you. Okay. Okay. That's okay, Rebecca. I think I can make this work. Let's go through this here. This is John Wilner. Since the Athletic article came out, SMU and San Diego State have been obvious candidates all along. Okay, been saying that at Peek Around the Corner since August. Neither would be offered full revenue shares. Take the deal, J.D. Wicker. Take the deal. Take the discount deal. We've been saying that all along, at least initially, according to sources. Each school is attracted to the Pac-12 for a variety of reasons, including the inventory of games they would add. As a 10-team conference, the Pac-12 would have approximately 65 football games available to its media partners, assuming each team played 9 conference games and 2 non-conference home games every season. As a 12-team league, the PAC would have approximately 78 games. All makes sense. Those additional 13 games provide valuable inventory, especially if the media partners are interested in weekly programming for Friday nights, which I think Amazon would have great interest in. Get that. It's not going to be a standalone night for them, but better than competing throughout Saturday, which they're probably going to have to do for their Tier 1 game if they get that, which they probably would. Kliakoff attended an SMU basketball game on Wednesday night as part of the campus visit. It is not known if other schools were discussed last week during the Pac-12 President's Quarterly Meeting. Expansion is part of a complicated 3-step process in which the Pac-12 must negotiate a new media rights deal contract with network partners. The schools must agree to sign their media rights over to the conference, and invitations to new members must be extended on a formal basis. The Pac-12 has been negotiating a new media agreement since July. Kliakoff has said that the process would come first, followed by the grant of rights piece, then expansion. But the 3 tracks were expected to unfold concurrently, sources said. The Pac-12 is inching closer toward remaining a 12-school conference following the departures, San Diego State, SMU. Okay. So it sounds like John Wilner has, Pac-12 is inching closer. There's some optimism. Again, I like John Wilner. He's does a great job. I would only say this, though. And I say this, with all due respect, we gave him the information on USC more than once. And he kept saying maybe 2030, maybe 2030, maybe 2030. So hopefully he has his finger on the pulse of what's going on there. He did not have his finger on the pulse in the spring, but I like reading his stuff. Good writer, legendary writer out in the West Coast. Thank you for that, Rebecca. John Wilner, a little bit more optimistic than The Athletic. Jim says, I would trust 4 athletic reporters over John Wilner. Sky, do you think Big Ten has any interest in adding more Pac-12 schools, or they're waiting for ACC schools? The only thing I can say, Sky, since October 12th, Big Ten decided no go on further Big Ten expansion at this time. Big Ten is not looking to expand at this time. Now, if I get anything different, I will forward it on. But that was a hard decision. Not a difficult one. I mean, it was a solid, this is our decision. They're not going forward. There is no interest in expanding at this time unless Notre Dame calls. If Notre Dame calls, then we're going to be here all night long, all through the next day and the next day and the next day. But no, nothing's going on right now with the Big Ten expansion. Yes, unless it's Notre Dame. Okay, guys, I think we're going to end our live show. We've been on for 3 hours and 38 minutes. 3 hours and 38 minutes. And I would be on for longer. However, we're going to be doing a live show tomorrow. There is zero doubts about it. What time, I do not know. We might do it Friday night. We might do it Friday at noon. It all depends. It all depends what happens. It largely depends. I got to do some talking with some people. And if I feel that we need to come on at noon tomorrow, we will do that. But stick with us at Peek Around the Corner. Please stick with us. I appreciate you all coming in. I appreciate the donations. If you're new to this channel, before you leave, please subscribe to our channel and smash that like button. If you liked any of this content, share the video with your family and friends. Share with them the video of Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be sticking with this story and others. And we'll get to the ACC way too early predictions at another time. But right now, it's all about the Pac-12, the Big 12. What is going to happen? What is going to happen? The Athletic coming down with an article this afternoon. It struck like a bolt of lightning. And then we have the news tonight of Oklahoma and Texas leaving early, 1 year early, to join the SEC, and all the ramifications, all the ripple effects that could entail. It just blows your mind. So thank you for everybody joining us tonight. Until next time, which is going to be tomorrow, please, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.